The metal screamed. Glass exploded into 1,000 glittering pieces across wet asphalt. Iris Bennett's world flipped 3 times before gravity slammed her back to Earth. Through the spider-webbed windshield, rain poured in like accusations. Her ribs felt wrong, sharp, disconnected. Blood trickled warm down her temple. But the worst pain came from the empty driver's seat beside her, the door hanging open, taillights disappearing into the storm. He'd run. Left her there like trash. As sirens wailed closer and her vision tunneled to black, one thought crystallized with brutal clarity. She was going to die alone, and she'd wasted 5 years loving a coward. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below and hit that like button. Let's see how far this story travels. Now settle in, because what happens next will restore your faith in second chances. The emergency room doors burst open with a violence that matched the storm outside. Iris barely registered the chaos, the shouting nurses, the glaring fluorescent lights, the rubber wheels of the gurney beneath her squealing against linoleum. Everything existed behind a thick pane of glass. Pain had become abstract, distant, like it belonged to someone else's body. Female, mid-20s, multiple trauma from vehicular accident. A paramedic's voice cut through the fog. Possible internal bleeding, fractured ribs, head injury, BP dropping. She's been in and out. Hands moved over her, pulling, prodding, cutting away her soaked clothes. Iris tried to focus on the ceiling tiles rushing past overhead, tried to count them, tried to hold on to anything solid. The fluorescent lights blurred into one long streak. Iris? Iris, can you hear me? The voice came from somewhere above her left shoulder. Male, steady, not panicked like the others. She managed to move her eyes toward the sound. A face materialized through the haze. Sharp features, dark hair slightly disheveled, eyes that were an unusual shade of gray-blue. He wore scrubs and a white coat spattered with someone else's emergency. I'm Dr. Cross. You're at St. Catherine's Hospital. You've been in an accident, but you're safe now. We're going to take care of you. Safe. The word landed wrong. Nothing about tonight was safe. Nothing about the last 5 years had been safe. My phone, she managed to whisper, though her tongue felt thick and clumsy. Need to call. We'll worry about that later, Dr. Cross said, his hand unexpectedly warm on her shoulder. Right now I need you to stay with me. Can you do that? Before she could answer, a new wave of pain ripped through her abdomen, so intense she couldn't even scream. Her back arched off the gurney. She's bleeding internally, Dr. Cross's voice sharpened. Get me a CT now and prep OR2. Move. The world tilted again. Iris felt herself slipping, the edges going soft and dark. Iris, that steady voice again commanding her attention. Eyes on me. Don't go anywhere yet. You hear me? Stay here. She didn't know why she obeyed. Didn't know why this stranger's voice felt like the only rope in a flooding river. But she held on. The surgery took 4 hours. Ethan Cross scrubbed out at 3:47 a.m., his hand steady despite the exhaustion pressing behind his eyes. Ruptured spleen, 3 broken ribs, one of which had been dangerously close to puncturing a lung. Internal bleeding that would have killed her within the hour if the ambulance had taken any longer. She'd been lucky. If you could call any of it luck. He'd seen the police report when they'd brought her in. Single vehicle collision, lost control on a wet road. But there were details that didn't fit. The passenger door found open at the scene, fresh scratches on the handle like someone had forced it. The absence of anyone else at the hospital, despite the 911 call coming from a male voice that wasn't hers. Someone had left her there. Ethan dried his hands more roughly than necessary. He'd been an ER surgeon for 8 years, long enough to recognize the patterns. The way she'd asked for her phone first thing, that desperate need to reach someone who clearly wasn't coming. He'd seen it before. People holding on to relationships that were already dead, just because letting go felt like another kind of dying. He knew that particular pain better than he wanted to admit. Dr. Cross? A resident poked her head into the scrub room. The patient's stable in recovery. Vitals are good. Family here yet? The resident shook her head. Nobody's shown up. We've got her phone, but it's locked. Can't access emergency contacts. Ethan checked his watch. Nearly 4 in the morning. He should go home. His daughter Lily would be up in 3 hours, and Mrs. Chen from next door had already stayed later than he'd promised. He had exactly 0 spare minutes in his life for other people's complications, but he found himself walking toward the recovery wing anyway. Iris woke to beeping, regular, insistent, accompanied by a dull ache that seemed to encompass her entire torso. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. Easy. That voice again, the doctor from before. You're going to be sore for a while. We had to remove your spleen and repair some internal damage. You're lucky to be alive. She turned her head slowly. Dr. Cross sat in a chair beside her bed, looking distinctly rumpled in a way that suggested he'd been there for some time. Early morning light filtered through the blinds, painting everything in shades of gray. What time is it? Her voice came out raspy. Almost 7. You've been out for a few hours. How's the pain? On a scale of 1 to 10. 12, she managed. The corner of his mouth twitched. I'll have the nurse increase your medication, but first I need to ask you some questions. Do you remember what happened? The crash. Marcus. The empty driver's seat. Her throat closed up. Hey. Doctor. Cross leaned forward slightly. Whatever it is, it can wait. I'm not here to interrogate you. I just need to know if there's someone we should call, someone who should know you're here. Iris closed her eyes. My phone. Can I have my phone? It's in your belongings. I'll have someone bring it up. But Iris... He paused, and something in his tone made her look at him. The police are going to want to talk to you about the accident, about what happened. Nothing happened, she said quickly. Too quickly. I lost control of the car. That's all. Dr. Cross studied her for a long moment. Those gray-blue eyes saw too much, cut through the lie with surgical precision. Okay, he finally said, though clearly he didn't believe her. When you're ready to talk, I'm around. In the meantime, focus on healing. That's the only thing that matters right now. He stood to leave, and Iris felt an irrational surge of panic at the thought of being alone. Dr. Cross? He turned back. Thank you, she whispered, for staying. Something shifted in his expression, softened just slightly. That's what we do here. Nobody heals alone. The morning brought a parade of nurses, residents, and specialists, all poking and prodding and asking questions. Iris answered mechanically, her attention fixed on the phone clutched in her bandaged hands. 23 missed calls, 47 texts, but none from Marcus. Her mother had called 6 times, probably worked into a frenzy by now. 2 friends from work. Her landlord, weirdly. But the one person who should have been blowing up her phone, demanding to know if she was alive? Nothing. The absence spoke louder than any message could. She opened their text thread with shaking hands. The last message was from her, sent at 8:47 p.m. yesterday. I think we should talk about this when you get home. Before that, Marcus, please don't do this. Before that, I know you're angry, but we can work through this. Hundreds of messages scrolling back months, years. A one-sided conversation with someone who'd stopped responding to anything that mattered. She'd been so stupid. Ms. Bennett? A police officer appeared in her doorway. Older guy with a sympathetic face that probably worked well for difficult notifications. I'm Detective Morrison. I know you've been through a lot, but I need to ask you a few questions about last night. Iris locked her phone and set it face down on the blanket. I already told the other officers. I lost control of the car in the rain. Right. Morrison pulled out a small notebook. Thing is, we found the passenger door open at the scene, and a witness from a nearby house reported seeing someone leaving the area on foot right after the crash. Male, about 6 feet, wearing a dark jacket. Her chest tightened, sending a spike of pain through her healing ribs. I don't know what they saw, she said carefully. I was alone in the car. Morrison's expression said he knew she was lying, but he'd heard it all before. Ms. Bennett, if someone was with you and they left you there, that's a crime. We can help, but only if you tell us the truth. There's nothing to tell, he sighed, flipping his notebook closed. All right, but if you change your mind, here's my card. Sometimes these things become clear after the shock wears off. After he left, Iris stared at the ceiling and tried not to cry. She'd protected Marcus out of instinct, The same instinct that had kept her in a relationship that had been dying by degrees for 3 years. The same instinct that whispered she deserved what she got. A knock interrupted her spiral. Dr. Cross stood in the doorway, holding 2 paper cups. "Coffee?" He offered one. "Hospital grade, so manage your expectations. But I figured you could use it." She struggled to sit up, wincing. He was beside her immediately, adjusting the bed with practiced efficiency. "You didn't have to do that," she said, accepting the cup. The warmth felt good against her palms. "I didn't have to. I wanted to." He settled into the chair, sipping his own coffee. "I heard the detective was here." "News travels fast. It's a hospital. Gossip's the primary currency." He paused. "For what it's worth, I'm not here to pressure you. But I've seen this before. People protecting those who hurt them, thinking they deserved it somehow." Iris stared into her coffee. "You don't know anything about my situation." "You're right. I don't. But I do know that whoever left you in that car doesn't deserve your silence." "Why do you care?" The words came out sharper than she'd intended. "I'm just another patient. You've probably got a dozen more to see today." Dr. Cross, Ethan, met her eyes steadily. 32, actually, and you're right. You are one patient among hundreds I'll see this year. But that doesn't make your story less important. Medicine isn't just about fixing bodies. Sometimes it's about reminding people they're worth fixing. Something cracked in Iris's chest, and it had nothing to do with her broken ribs. "His name is Marcus," she heard herself say. "We'd been together 5 years. He was driving when we crashed. I said something he didn't like, and he just snapped. Started driving crazy, too fast. I told him to slow down. We were fighting, and then we hit a patch of standing water and everything went sideways." She took a shaky breath. "When I came to, he was gone. Just gone." Ethan's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed even. "Did you tell the detective this?" "No." "Why not?" Iris laughed, and it hurt. "Because I'm an idiot who spent 5 years making excuses for him. Because part of me still thinks maybe I pushed too hard, asked for too much. Because I don't know how to be the kind of person who gets someone arrested." "You're not getting him arrested. He did that himself when he left you to die." Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Look, I can't tell you what to do. That's your choice. But I can tell you what I see. Someone who survived something that should have killed her. That takes strength. Don't waste it protecting someone who proved they're not worth it." They sat in silence for a moment. Somewhere down the hall, a baby cried. A code blue announcement crackled over the intercom. "I should let you rest," Ethan said finally, standing. "I've got rounds, but if you need anything, and I mean anything, have the nurses page me." "Dr. Cross," Iris called as he reached the door. "Do you always get this involved with your patients?" He turned back and something flickered across his face, a shadow of old pain, quickly shuddered. "No," he admitted. "But every once in a while you meet someone who reminds you why you got into this business in the first place. Someone who deserves better than what they got." After he left, Iris picked up Detective Morrison's card and stared at it for a long time. 3 days passed in a haze of physical therapy, medication adjustments, and learning to walk without her entire abdomen screaming in protest. Marcus never called, never texted. It was like she'd simply ceased to exist. Iris told herself it was better this way. Clean break, no messy confrontations. But late at night, when the pain medication wore thin and the hospital room felt like a cage, the abandonment settled into her bones like a cold that wouldn't break. Ethan checked on her twice a day, always professional, but with a warmth that went beyond standard bedside manner. He learned she took her coffee black, that she preferred the blinds open even if the sunlight made it harder to sleep, that she deflected personal questions with jokes that didn't quite land. "You never told the detective," he observed on the 4th day, reviewing her charts. "No." "Are you going to?" Iris shifted against her pillows. "What's the point? He's gone. I'm alive. Adding criminal charges won't change what happened. It might prevent him from doing it to someone else." The thought hadn't occurred to her. She'd been so focused on her own humiliation, her own pain, she hadn't considered Marcus might find another woman to gaslight, to abandon. "I'll think about it," she said quietly. Ethan nodded, making a note on her chart. "You're healing well, physically, We might be able to discharge you in a few days if you keep improving. Do you have somewhere to go? Someone who can help you recover at home?" The question landed like a punch. Iris lived alone in a fifth-floor walk-up, impossible to manage with her current injuries. Her mother lived 3 states away and had a bad back. Her closest friend was dealing with her own crisis, a divorce that had turned nuclear. "I'll figure something out," she said, forcing brightness into her voice. Ethan's expression suggested he saw right through it, but he didn't push. "Okay, well, we have social workers who can help arrange home health care if needed. Don't try to tough this out alone." But alone was all Iris knew anymore. Quote. That evening, as the hospital settled into its nighttime rhythm, Iris forced herself out of bed and shuffled to the window. 6 floors up, the city sprawled below, lights and movement and lives being lived. Somewhere out there, Marcus was going about his day like nothing had happened. Maybe he was with friends, laughing at some joke. Maybe he was already spinning the story, making himself the victim. You're not supposed to be up without assistance. Iris turned to find Ethan in the doorway, this time in jeans and a worn t-shirt instead of scrubs. Off duty, apparently, but still here. "I needed to move," she said. "I can't just lie there anymore." He crossed the room to stand beside her at the window, maintaining a careful distance. "I get it. Being stuck in a hospital bed makes you feel powerless, but you've got to be patient with your body. Healing takes time." "How do you do it?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. See people at their worst every day and still believe they'll get better? Ethan was quiet for a moment, his reflection ghostly in the window glass. "Honestly, some days I don't. Some days I go home and wonder what the point is. People hurt themselves, hurt each other, end up back here over and over. It's exhausting. So why keep doing it? Because every once in a while, you see someone turn it around. Someone who survives what shouldn't be survivable and decides to build something better with their second chance." He glanced at her. "Those are the ones that make it worthwhile." Iris felt heat creep up her neck. "Is that what you think I'll do? Turn it around?" "I think you're already doing it. You're still here. That's the first step." They stood in silence, watching the city breathe. "Can I ask you something?" Iris said finally. "And you can tell me to mind my own business." "Shoot." "Oh, why aren't you home? It's past 8. Don't doctors have lives outside the hospital?" Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. "I do have a life, a 5-year-old daughter who's probably giving her babysitter hell right now because I missed bedtime. Again." Iris blinked. She hadn't expected that. "You have a daughter?" "Lily, she's..." He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo of a little girl with dark curls and a gap-toothed grin, holding up a crayon drawing. "She's the reason I do this job. Also the reason I'm terrible at this job because I'm constantly choosing between her and my patients. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to keep you." "You didn't. I chose to check on you before heading home. That's on me." He pocketed his phone. "Her mother isn't in the picture. It's been just the 2 of us for 3 years now." The admission hung between them, weighted with all the history he wasn't saying. Iris recognized the shape of it, the kind of pain that got compressed into small, careful words because the full story was too big to carry casually. "That must be hard," she offered. "Some days harder than others, but she's the best thing that ever happened to me, even if I'm probably screwing her up with all the missed bedtimes and emergency babysitters." He turned from the window. "Come on, let's get you back to bed before you overdo it and set back your recovery." As Ethan helped her navigate the few steps back to the bed, his hand steady on her elbow, Iris found herself noticing details she'd missed before. The faint scar above his left eyebrow, the permanent crease between his eyes that came from too much squinting at charts, the way he moved with a quiet confidence that had nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with competence earned through repetition. He wasn't handsome in the conventional sense. His features were too sharp, his jaw too stern, but there was something compelling about him, something solid that made you want to stay in his orbit. "Dr. Cross," she said as he adjusted her pillows. "Ethan's fine when I'm off the clock." Ethan. The name felt strange on her tongue, intimate somehow. "Thank you for everything. I know it's your job, but it doesn't feel like just a job." He met her eyes, and for a moment something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. 2 people who'd been broken by different circumstances, trying to figure out how to build something functional from the pieces. "Get some rest," he said quietly. I'll see you tomorrow. After he left, Iris lay in the dark and thought about single fathers who worked double shifts and still found time to check on damaged strangers. She thought about 5-year-old girls who deserved better than a dad stretched too thin. She thought about Marcus and how thoroughly he'd convinced her she wasn't worth anyone's extra effort. Maybe Ethan was right. Maybe surviving was just the first step. The real question was what came next. The next morning brought a surprise visitor. Iris's mother appeared in the doorway at 9 a.m., looking windswept and worried, overnight bag in hand. "Oh, honey," Margaret Bennett breathed, rushing to the bedside. "When you finally called, I dropped everything. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have been here days ago." "It's fine, Mom. I'm okay." "You are not okay. You were in a car accident. You had surgery. Where's Marcus? Why hasn't he been here?" The question sat like a stone. Iris had rehearsed answers, but none of them came out. Instead, her eyes filled with stupid tears that she couldn't blink away fast enough. Margaret's expression shifted from worry to understanding to white-hot fury in the span of 3 seconds. "What did he do?" "Mom?" "Iris Elizabeth Bennett, what did that man do?" So Iris told her. Everything. The fight, the crash, the empty driver's seat, the days of silence. Her mother listened without interrupting, her hand gripping Iris's so tightly it almost hurt. When the story finished, Margaret stood up, her whole body vibrating with rage. "I'm calling the police right now. That piece of—" "I already talked to them," Iris admitted. "Detective Morrison came back yesterday. I told him everything." It was true. She'd called Morrison the night before, after Ethan left, and given him the full statement. Something about that conversation at the window had shifted something in her, made her realize that protecting Marcus was just another way of letting him win. Margaret's shoulders sagged with relief. "Good. That's good, honey." She sat back down, gentler now. "You're staying with me while you recover. No arguments. I already talked to your landlord about getting your things. You're not going back to that apartment. Mom, your back is fine for a few weeks. Besides, Mrs. Patterson next door offered to help. We'll manage." Margaret squeezed her hand again. "You're not doing this alone." For the first time in days, Iris felt something loosen in her chest. Not healed, not even close, but maybe the beginning of permission to stop carrying everything by herself. Ethan found her that afternoon with her mother, the two of them laughing at some story from Iris's childhood. He paused in the doorway, unwilling to interrupt what looked like the first genuine lightness he'd seen from his patient. "Dr. Cross," Margaret noticed him first, standing to shake his hand. "You must be the surgeon who saved my daughter's life. I can't thank you enough." "Just doing my job, Mrs. Bennett." "Margaret, please. And I don't think it was just a job." She glanced meaningfully at Iris, who went slightly pink. "Iris told me you've been checking on her every day." Ethan felt heat creep up his own neck. "I like to follow my surgical cases closely. Make sure there are no complications." "Mm-hmm." Margaret's knowing smile suggested she wasn't buying it. "Well, either way, we're grateful. I'm taking Iris home with me when she's discharged. She'll have proper care and support." "That's excellent news. Recovery goes much faster with a good support system." He turned to Iris. "How are you feeling today? Pain levels?" "Better. I actually slept through the night." "That's progress. Let me check your incisions." Margaret excused herself to get coffee, leaving them alone. As Ethan examined the healing surgical sites, he found himself hyper-aware of the intimacy of it, his hands on her skin, the way she held her breath when something was tender. "You told the detective," he observed quietly. "How did you know?" "Morrison called the hospital to verify your treatment dates for his report." Ethan straightened, pulling her gown back into place. That took courage. "It took being sick of being scared." Iris met his eyes. "You were right about not protecting people who hurt us, about deserving better." Something in her gaze made Ethan's chest tighten. He recognized the look, the fragile hope of someone testing out the idea that maybe, just maybe, they were worth more than they'd been told. He'd worn that look himself once, 3 years ago, when his ex-wife had left for the final time. "You do deserve better," he said, meaning it. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." "Even myself?" "Especially yourself." Margaret returned then, breaking the moment. Ethan made his excuses and left, but the conversation stayed with him through rounds, through 2 emergency surgeries, through the entire drive home. When he finally walked into his small house at 10 p.m., exhausted and running on fumes, Lily was still awake, playing on the floor in her pajamas. Mrs. Chen looked apologetic. "She wouldn't sleep until you got home," the older woman explained. "Said she had something important to tell you." Ethan scooped his daughter into his arms, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "What's up, Lily Pad? What's so important?" "I drawed you a picture at school." She wiggled down to retrieve a piece of construction paper. "It's us. See? That's you with your doctor coat, and that's me, and that's Mrs. Chen, and that's our house." The figures were crude stick people, but the love was clear in every crayon stroke. Ethan felt the familiar ache in his chest, pride and guilt in equal measure. "It's beautiful, baby. We'll put it on the fridge." "Mrs. Chen says you save people's lives. Is that true?" "I try to help people who are hurt, yeah." Lily studied him with serious eyes, so much older than 5. "Are you helping anyone right now?" An image of Iris flashed through his mind, her in that hospital bed, holding her phone like it might ring any second with a call that would never come. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'm trying to help someone who got hurt pretty badly." "Are they going to be okay?" "I think so. I hope so." Lily threw her arms around his neck. "You're the best daddy doctor in the whole world." Ethan held her tight and wondered if he was doing enough for anyone, his patients, his daughter, himself. The balancing act never got easier. Every choice felt like a betrayal of something else. Every hour at the hospital was an hour away from Lily. Every early bedtime, because he was too exhausted to function, was another small failure. But Lily didn't see it that way. She saw a father who showed up, who tried, who loved her even when everything was complicated and messy and imperfect. Maybe that was enough. Later, after Lily finally fell asleep and Mrs. Chen went home, Ethan stood in his kitchen and thought about Iris's question. How do you do it? The truth was simpler than his answer had suggested. You did it because someone needed you to. You showed up because the alternative was unthinkable. You tried because giving up meant letting the darkness win. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you helped someone find their way back to themselves. He just hoped Iris would be one of those someones. The discharge came on day 7. Margaret fussed over the wheelchair requirement. She can walk just fine, for heaven's sake. But Iris didn't mind. After a week in that bed, even the wheelchair felt like freedom. Ethan met them at the exit with discharge papers and a stern look. Physical therapy 3 times a week? No exceptions. Pain medication is prescribed, not when you think you need it. No lifting anything over 10 pounds for at least 4 weeks. And I want to see you back here in 2 weeks for a follow-up. Yes, doctor, Iris said, fighting a smile. I'm serious. I've seen too many people push too hard too fast and end up back in surgery. Listen to your body. I will. He crouched down to her eye level, his expression softening slightly. You've been through something traumatic. It's not just about physical healing. If you need to talk to someone, a therapist, counselor, anyone, that's not weakness. I know. Do you? His gray-blue eyes searched hers. Because I get the feeling you're really good at taking care of everyone else and really bad at letting people take care of you. The observation hit closer than Iris wanted to admit. Takes one to know one. Ethan's mouth quirked. Fair point. Margaret cleared her throat meaningfully. We should get going. It's a 3-hour drive. As they made their way to the parking lot, Iris found herself looking back at the hospital entrance. It felt strange to be leaving. This place had been a cocoon, insulated from the real world. Out there, she'd have to face everything. The empty apartment, the job she'd have to call about medical leave, the friends who'd want explanations she didn't know how to give, the life Marcus had left behind like it meant nothing. Ready? Margaret asked, helping her into the passenger seat. Not really, but let's go anyway. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Iris caught one last glimpse of the hospital. Somewhere up there, Ethan was probably already elbow-deep in another emergency, saving another life, holding another family together with his steady competence. She wondered if she'd see him again, and was surprised by how much she hoped the answer was yes. The The 2 weeks passed slowly at Margaret's house. Iris spent most of her time on the couch, alternating between physical therapy exercises and mindless television. Her body healed incrementally, less pain each day, more mobility, the incisions fading from angry red to pink. But the emotional wounds stayed raw. Marcus never reached out, not once. It was like their 5 years together had been erased, wiped clean. Iris found herself checking her phone compulsively, hoping and dreading in equal measure. Some traitorous part of her still wanted him to call, to apologize, to explain, to prove that she'd mattered, even a little. But he never did. Detective Morrison called twice with updates. They'd questioned Marcus, who claimed he'd panicked after the crash and fled the scene. He'd lawyered up immediately, and the case was now with the DA's office. Possible charges: reckless endangerment, leaving the scene of an accident with injury, failure to render aid. "It'll be a tough case," Morrison admitted. "Good lawyers can make jury sympathize with panic, but we've got a solid shot, especially with your testimony." Iris said she'd testify if needed, but the thought made her nauseous. On the morning of her follow-up appointment, she woke with a flutter of nerves that had nothing to do with medical anxiety. She took extra time getting ready, then felt stupid about it. What did it matter what she looked like? But she knew why it mattered, and that knowledge made her feel guilty and foolish in equal measure. Margaret drove her to St. Catherine's, chatting about neighborhood gossip and her book club drama. Iris half listened, her attention fixed on the approaching building. The clinic was busy: crying babies, elderly patients with walkers, a teenager in a sports brace. Iris checked in and settled into the waiting room, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. "Iris Bennett?" a nurse called after 20 minutes. She followed the nurse to an exam room, anxiety ratcheting up with each step. What if Ethan wasn't even here? What if she got some random doctor she'd never met? What if... The door opened. Ethan walked in, white coat over navy scrubs, looking tired but breaking into a genuine smile when he saw her. "You're walking," he observed. "That's excellent progress." "Trying to be a good patient," Iris managed, returning his smile. He washed his hands, pulled on gloves, and began the examination. His touch was clinical, professional, but Iris found herself hyper-aware of every contact point. When had she become this person, someone who got flustered over a doctor doing his job? "Everything's healing beautifully," Ethan said, making notes on his tablet. "Incisions look clean, no signs of infection. How's your pain level on a daily basis?" "Manageable. Maybe a 3 on bad days, 1 or 2 most of the time." "Excellent. Are you doing the physical therapy?" 3 times a week like you ordered." "And how are you doing otherwise?" He pulled off the gloves, met her eyes directly. "Really?" The question threatened to undo her careful composure. "I'm managing. My mom's been great. It's just adjusting. Yeah, everything feels different now, like I'm living someone else's life." Ethan nodded slowly. "That's normal after trauma. Your brain is recalibrating, trying to make sense of what happened. It takes time." "How much time?" "As much as you need. There's no deadline for healing." He hesitated, then added, "I know I'm your doctor, so this might be crossing a line. But if you ever need to talk, not about medical stuff, just talk. I'm around. Sometimes it helps to have someone who isn't family, who doesn't have their own emotional investment in your recovery." Iris felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back furiously. "Thank you. That means a lot." "I mean it." He pulled out a card, scribbled something on the back. "That's my direct line at the hospital. Use it if you need to." She took the card, their fingers brushing briefly. The contact felt electric, significant in a way that was probably all in her head. "I should let you get to your next patient," she said, standing. "Take care of yourself, Iris, and I'll see you in another month for final clearance." She nodded and left before she could say something embarrassing. Margaret was waiting in the lobby, eyebrows raised knowingly. "That doctor of yours is very handsome." "Mom." "I'm just saying, and the way he looked at you, he's my surgeon. He looks at all his patients that way." "Mm-hmm." Margaret's smile suggested she knew better. "Well, if you say so." The drive back to Margaret's house felt longer than it should have. Iris stared out the window, Ethan's business card burning a hole in her jacket pocket. She kept replaying their conversation, analyzing every word, every pause, looking for meaning that probably wasn't there. You're being ridiculous, she muttered to herself. What was that, honey? Margaret glanced over from the driver's seat. Nothing, just talking to myself. About the handsome doctor. Mom, please. Margaret laughed. I'm your mother. I'm allowed to tease. Besides, when was the last time I saw you smile like that? Before the accident, you walked around like someone had dimmed all the lights. Now you're actually present. Iris wanted to argue, but Margaret wasn't wrong. The past few months with Marcus had been a slow fade to gray. Endless fights that went nowhere. Needs that went unmet. A creeping sense that she was disappearing into someone else's idea of who she should be. He's my doctor, Iris said firmly. That's all. It would be inappropriate to even think about anything else. Is it inappropriate for him to give you his personal number? It's for medical questions. Sure it is. Margaret's smile was infuriating. You know what I think? I think you've spent so long settling for scraps that you can't recognize when someone's offering you a meal. The observation stung because it was true. Marcus had trained her well, to expect less, need less, be less, to be grateful for this bare minimum and never ask for more. Her phone buzzed. For a split second, her heart leapt with that stupid, traitorous hope. But it was just a notification from her bank app. Rent was due in 3 days and she had no idea how she was going to pay it. Medical leave from her receptionist job meant no income, and her savings had been decimated by splitting everything with Marcus for 5 years. Everything was a mess, and she had no idea how to untangle it. Margaret must have sensed her shift in mood. What's wrong? Nothing, just money stuff. I'll figure it out. Iris, I don't want to talk about it, Mom. They drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, Iris lay in her childhood bedroom, the same twin bed, the same glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that she'd stuck up at age 12, and felt like she'd regressed 15 years, 27 years old and living with her mother, recovering from injuries given to her by a man who'd promised to love her, with no job and no plan and no idea what came next. She picked up her phone, pulled up Ethan's number. Her thumb hovered over the call button. What would she even say? Hi. I know we barely know each other, but I can't stop thinking about you, and also my life is falling apart, and I'm scared I'll never be whole again. She set the phone down, picked it up again, set it down. You're pathetic, she told the ceiling stars. They didn't disagree. 3 weeks crawled by. Iris threw herself into physical therapy with an intensity that made her therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Rita, tell her to ease up before she hurt herself. But the pain felt good. Purposeful. Every stretch that made her wince, every exercise that left her shaking. It was proof she was doing something, fixing something, moving forward even if she had no idea where she was going. She called her landlord and negotiated an extension on the rent. Called her boss and got approved for another month of medical leave, though the woman's tone suggested she was on thin ice. Called her bank and set up a payment plan for the credit card bills that Marcus had left her holding when he'd quietly removed himself from their joint account 3 days after the accident. She did not call Ethan. Every day she thought about it. Every day she found a reason not to. Too needy, too soon, too complicated, too pathetic. On a Thursday afternoon in late autumn, Margaret announced she had book club and would be gone for 3 hours. Will you be okay alone? Mom, I'm not a child. I know that, but you've been quiet lately, more than usual. I'm fine. Margaret gave her a look that said she wasn't buying it, but left anyway. The house settled into silence. Iris tried to read, gave up. Tried to watch TV, found everything irritating. Tried to sleep, lay there staring at the ceiling. Her phone sat on the nightstand, Ethan's card tucked in the case. Before she could overthink it, she grabbed the phone and dialed. It rang 4 times. She was about to hang up when his voice came through, slightly breathless. This is Dr. Cross. Hi, it's Iris. Iris Bennett. I don't know if you remember. Of course I remember. Is everything okay? Are you having complications? No, nothing like that. I'm healing fine. She trailed off, suddenly mortified. What was she doing? Sorry, this was stupid. You're probably busy. I've got a minute. What's going on? The kindness in his voice nearly broke her. I don't even know. I've been doing everything right. Therapy, rest, following all the rules, but I feel like I'm stuck. Like I survived the crash, but I'm still in it somehow, you know? A pause, then, Where are you right now? At my mom's house. Why? Are you mobile? Can you drive? Yeah, I've been cleared for short trips. Why? There's a coffee shop on Berkshire and 5th. Neutral territory. Meet me there in an hour. We'll talk. Ethan, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. 1 hour. He hung up before she could protest further. Iris stared at her phone, heart hammering. Then she scrambled out of bed and ransacked her limited wardrobe for something that didn't scream pathetic disaster person living with her mother. 45 minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of a small cafe tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner. It was charming in that deliberate way. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, a chalkboard menu with elaborate cursive. The kind of place Marcus would have hated, called pretentious. She found Ethan at a corner table, already nursing what looked like black coffee. He'd changed out of scrubs into jeans and a gray Henley that made his eyes even more striking. When he saw her, he stood. Hey, you found it okay? Yeah. She slid into the seat across from him. I can't believe you came. Don't you have, lives to save or something? I'm between shifts, and Lily's at a play date. He pushed a menu toward her. Get something. You look like you haven't eaten today. I'm not hungry. Iris. The way he said her name, gentle but firm, made her take the menu. She ordered a latte and a scone she had no intention of eating. When the waitress left, Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her. Talk to me. What's really going on? Where did she even start? The financial stress? The nightmares she hadn't told anyone about? The way she'd driven past her old apartment twice this week just to torture herself with memories? The crushing loneliness of realizing she'd built her entire adult life around someone who discarded her like garbage? I don't know how to do this, she said finally. How to be a person again. Everything I was before the accident, it was all tied up in him. My routines, my plans, my identity. And now that's gone, and I don't know what's left. What do you want to be left? The question caught her off guard. What? If you could build your life from scratch right now, no Marcus, no history, no expectations, what would you want? Iris opened her mouth, closed it. She had no idea. For 5 years, she'd wanted what Marcus wanted, adjusted her dreams to fit his, made herself smaller to make room for his ambitions. I don't know, she admitted. Isn't that pathetic? I'm 27 years old and I don't know what I want. It's not pathetic, it's honest. Ethan's coffee sat forgotten. You know what I wanted when I was 27? To be the youngest attending surgeon at a major hospital. To have a perfect marriage, 2.5 kids, a house in the suburbs. I had this whole blueprint. What happened? Life. My wife decided she didn't want the same things. Or maybe she did, but not with me. She left when Lily was 2, and suddenly I was a single father with a demanding career and a daughter who needed me more than any patient ever could. The blueprint became irrelevant. Do you regret it? Iris asked. Having Lily? Not for a second. She's the best thing in my life. But do I regret trusting someone who wasn't trustworthy? Building my life around someone who could walk away? Yeah, I regret that. The parallel wasn't subtle. Iris picked at her scone. So what did you do? After she left? Survived. Put one foot in front of the other. Let myself be a mess for a while. Then slowly figured out what mattered. Not what I thought should matter, but what actually did. Turned out it wasn't the attending position or the perfect house. It was Lily's laugh. Patients who lived when they shouldn't have. Small moments of competence in an incompetent world. That's very zen of you. He laughed. Trust me, there was nothing zen about it. I was a disaster. Asked my parents to move in for 6 months because I couldn't handle it alone. Went to therapy, cried in my car more times than I can count. But eventually I found a rhythm. Not perfect, not even good some days, but mine. Iris felt something loosen in her chest. Permission, maybe. To be a disaster, to not have answers. Can I ask you something? She said. And you can tell me it's none of my business. Go ahead. Why are you here? Really? You don't owe me anything. We barely know each other. So why take time out of your day to have coffee with your former patient who's having an existential crisis? Ethan was quiet for a long moment, turning his mug in slow circles. You want the honest answer? Please. Because when I look at you, I see someone at a crossroads. You can let what happened define you, make you smaller, prove that you deserved it, or you can use it as a catalyst, build something better, choose differently next time. He met her eyes. And selfishly, I'd like to see you choose the second option, because I think you're capable of more than you know. Heat crawled up Iris's neck. You don't know me well enough to think that. Maybe not, but I know you filed charges against someone you loved. I know you're doing your physical therapy religiously even though it hurts. I know you called me today instead of spiraling alone. Those aren't small things. The waitress returned with Iris's latte. She wrapped her hands around the cup, using the warmth as an anchor. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. What if I'm always this broken? What if I never figure out who I am without him? Then you'll be broken for a while. That's okay. Broken doesn't mean worthless. Ethan's voice was matter of fact, no pity in it. You know what the hardest part of surgery is? Not the technical stuff. It's trusting that the body knows how to heal itself. My job is to create the conditions. Remove the damaged tissue, repair what's torn, give it time. But the actual healing? That's all you. The body figures it out. What if my body forgets how? It won't. That's what bodies do. They heal, even when it feels impossible. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The cafe filled and emptied around them, afternoon sliding toward evening. Iris found herself actually eating the scone, then ordering another coffee, prolonging the moment. Tell me about Lily, she said eventually. What's she like? Ethan's entire demeanor shifted, softened. She's 5 going on 35, terrifyingly smart, asks about 10,000 questions a day, wants to be either a veterinarian or an astronaut, depending on the day. Does she look like you? Poor kid got my hair, but thankfully her mother's smile. He pulled out his phone, showed her more photos. Lily in a princess costume, Lily covered in finger paint, Lily asleep with a book on her chest. She's beautiful, Iris said honestly. She's a handful, but yeah, she's pretty great. Do you ever see her mom? Ethan's expression shuddered slightly. Christmas and birthdays. She moved to Seattle with her new husband, sends cards, the occasional video call. But she's not really interested in being a parent, which is her choice, I guess. But it's hard explaining to a 5-year-old why mommy doesn't visit more. That must be awful for both of you. Some days are harder than others, but we manage. Mrs. Chen helps a lot. And Lily's got my parents, who spoil her rotten. He pocketed his phone. The worst part is the guilt. Every time I choose the hospital over a school event, every time I'm too exhausted to play another round of dress-up, I wonder if I'm screwing her up. From what I've seen, you're doing an amazing job. You haven't seen the tantrums when I forget to cut her sandwiches into triangles. Iris laughed, a real one. The horror. Right? Clearly, I'm a monster. They talked until the cafe staff started giving them pointed looks while wiping down nearby tables. Ethan checked his watch and swore softly. I need to pick up Lily. I completely lost track of time. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. You didn't. This was... He paused, seemed to be choosing his words carefully. This was really nice. I don't do this often. Talk to people who aren't colleagues or patients or my daughter. Me neither, Iris admitted. Talk to people who actually listen, I mean. They walked out to the parking lot together. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. Ethan's car, a sensible sedan with a car seat in back, was parked next to Iris's borrowed Honda. Can I ask you something? Ethan said, turning to face her. Are you doing okay? Really? Not the polite answer, the true one. Iris considered lying, considered the automatic I'm fine that had become her default. But something about the way he asked, the genuine concern in his gray-blue eyes, made her tell the truth. No, I'm not okay, but I'm starting to think maybe that's okay, that I don't have to be fixed right now. Good. That's good. He looked like he wanted to say something else, then thought better of it. Take care of yourself, Iris, and if you need to talk again, not about medical stuff, just talk, you have my number. Thank you for today, for listening. Anytime. He climbed into his car and drove off. Iris stood in the parking lot for a long moment, feeling something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Not happiness, exactly, but maybe the beginning of permission to try. The weeks that followed settled into a pattern. Iris continued her physical therapy, started looking for jobs that didn't make her want to walk into traffic, and slowly began reclaiming pieces of herself she'd forgotten existed. She started running again, slowly at first, just short distances that left her winded and aching. But the pain was different from the accident pain. This was earned, chosen, hers. She didn't call Ethan again. Part of her wanted to, desperately. But another part recognized the danger in that wanting, how easy it would be to transfer her dependence from Marcus to someone else, to make Ethan into another crutch instead of learning to stand on her own. But she thought about him more than she wanted to admit. Wondered how Lily was doing, whether Ethan had managed to make it to any school events, whether he ever thought about their conversation at the cafe. Margaret noticed, of course. Mothers always did. "You should call him," she said one evening over dinner. "Who?" "Don't play dumb. The doctor." "He's not interested, Mom. He was being nice. That's his job." "His job is surgery. Coffee dates or something else." "It wasn't a date." Iris pushed rice around her plate. "Even if he was interested, which he's not, it's too soon. I'm a mess. I can barely take care of myself. The last thing I need is to jump into something new." "But who said anything about jumping? I'm talking about one phone call. See how he's doing. Build a friendship. You're allowed to have friends, Iris." But Ethan didn't feel like a friend. He felt like something more dangerous, more complicated, a possibility she wasn't ready to examine too closely. Her phone rang. For a split second, her stupid heart did that leap thing, but it was Detective Morrison. "Ms. Bennett, got an update for you. The DA's office is moving forward with charges against Mr. Reeves. Reckless endangerment, leaving the scene. We've got a court date set for December 15th. You'll need to testify." The news should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like being asked to walk back into the crash all over again. "Okay," she managed. "I'll be there. His lawyer's going to come at you hard. Try to paint you as vindictive, lying to get revenge for a breakup. Are you prepared for that?" Was she? "I'll manage." "Good. You're doing the right thing, Ms. Bennett, even if it doesn't feel like it." After he hung up, Iris sat with the news, trying to process how she felt. Angry, yeah. Scared, definitely. But underneath that, something else. A grim satisfaction that Marcus would have to face consequences for once in his life. She pulled out her phone, pulled up Ethan's number. This time, she didn't hesitate. He answered on the second ring. "Iris? Everything okay?" "Define okay." She laughed, but it came out shaky. "Sorry, that's not fair. I'm fine, physically fine. I got a call from the detective. There's going to be a trial. I have to testify." "When?" "December 15th. A pause. "Do you have someone going with you for support?" "My mom, probably. She's been great, but she's my mom, you know? She's going to be a wreck, which means I'll spend the whole time taking care of her instead of focusing on what I need to do." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "I could go with you if you want." Iris's breath caught. "Ethan, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to, but I'm offering. You shouldn't have to do this alone, and it sounds like you could use someone who can stay calm under pressure. Professional detachment is one of my few talents." "What about Lily?" "I'll figure it out. Mrs. Chen or my parents can watch her. Iris, let me do this, please." The please broke something in her. "Okay, thank you. I don't know how to..." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. You haven't heard my cross-examination prep. I'm very thorough." She laughed for real this time. "I bet you are." They talked for another 20 minutes. About nothing. About everything. He told her about Lily's latest fixation with building elaborate block towers only to destroy them. She told him about her disastrous attempt to cook dinner that had resulted in setting off the smoke alarm. When they finally hung up, Iris felt lighter than she had in weeks. Margaret was watching her from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, smile smug. "Don't say it," Iris warned. "I didn't say anything. You're thinking it very loudly. I'm just thinking it's nice to see you happy. That's all." Iris couldn't argue with that. The month leading up to the trial passed in a blur. Iris threw herself into preparation, working with Morrison to review her testimony, practicing staying calm under hostile questioning, learning to separate emotion from facts. It was exhausting, but it gave her purpose. Ethan called every few days. Sometimes they talked about the trial. More often, they didn't. He'd tell her about his day, the successful surgeries, the frustrating bureaucracy, the tiny victories that made the job worthwhile. She'd tell him about her progress, the small steps toward independence, the job interviews that might actually lead somewhere. Slowly, imperceptibly, they became part of each other's daily rhythm. The night before the trial, Iris couldn't sleep. She lay in her childhood bed, staring at those stupid glow-in-the-dark stars, and tried not to spiral into panic. Tomorrow she'd have to face Marcus, look him in the eye and tell a roomful of strangers exactly how pathetic she'd been, how completely she'd let him erase her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Can't sleep either. Want company?" She stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "It's midnight. And, don't you have Lily? She's at my parents' for the night." "I'm free. There's a diner on Route 9 that's open 24 hours. Best terrible coffee in the state." Iris was out of bed and pulling on jeans before she could talk herself out of it. The diner was exactly as advertised. Fluorescent lights, cracked vinyl booths, a laminated menu with approximately 10,000 items. Ethan was already there, looking rumpled and exhausted in a way that somehow made him more attractive. "You came," he said when she slid into the booth across from him. "You offered terrible coffee. How could I resist?" They ordered, coffee for both, pie for her, nothing for him, though he ended up stealing half her slice. The late-night crowd was sparse, mostly truckers and insomniacs, everyone lost in their own private struggles. "Talk to me," Ethan said. "What's got you up at midnight?" "What do you think? Tomorrow I have to sit in a courtroom and tell everyone about the worst night of my life. Have my choices dissected. Get called a liar by some defense attorney who's just doing his job but feels like he's calling my entire existence into question." She took a breath. "I'm terrified." "That's reasonable." "Is it? Because I feel like I should be stronger than this. It's just a trial, just words. But it feels like I'm going to be on display, like evidence." Ethan reached across the table, covered her hand with his. The contact was warm, grounding. "You are strong. Strength isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway." That sounds like something from a motivational poster. Probably, but it's still true. He didn't move his hand. "Tomorrow, when you're up there, remember something. You're not on trial. He is. You're the witness. You're the one who survived, and nothing he or his lawyer says can change that." "What if I freeze? What if I can't get the words out?" "Then you take a breath and try again. And if you need a break, you ask for one. There's no shame in that." Iris turned her hand over, laced her fingers through his. It was forward, probably inappropriate, but she needed the anchor. "Will you really be there? In the courtroom?" "Front row, I promise." They sat like that for a long time, hands intertwined across cheap formica, neither one willing to break the connection. Something had shifted between them, crossed some invisible line. They both felt it, neither acknowledged it. "I should let you sleep," Ethan said finally, though he made no move to leave. "I won't sleep anyway." "Me neither." "Then stay, just for a while." So he did. They talked until the sun started to lighten the sky, until the early shift workers began filtering in for breakfast. They talked about everything and nothing, childhood memories, favorite books, the small moments that shaped them into who they'd become. When they finally left the diner, Iris felt steadier. Not fixed, not fearless, but ready. Ethan walked her to her car. "I'll see you at the courthouse, 9 a.m. Thank you, for tonight, for all of it." He hesitated, then pulled her into a hug. It was brief, careful of her still healing injuries, but Iris felt it in her bones, the solidity of him, the warmth, the sense of being held by someone who had no agenda beyond making sure she was okay. When he pulled back, his hands lingered on her shoulders. "You've got this, Iris." "I know you do." She wanted to kiss him. The want was so strong it was almost physical, a pull in her chest. But the timing was wrong, the circumstances impossible. So instead, she just nodded and got in her car. As she drove back to Margaret's house, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, Iris realized something. She'd survived the crash, survived Marcus leaving, survived the surgery, the recovery, the slow rebuilding of a life she'd thought was over. Tomorrow, she'd survive the trial. And after that? After that, maybe she could start thinking about living instead of just surviving. Maybe she could start thinking about what she wanted, not what she'd been told to want. Maybe she could start thinking about gray blue eyes and steady hands, and a 5-year-old girl who deserved a father who wasn't stretched quite so thin. Maybe. The courthouse steps felt steeper than they should have. Iris stood at the bottom, staring up at the imposing granite building, her mother clutching her elbow like she might bolt at any second, which, to be fair, she might. "We can go home," Margaret said for the third time. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." "Iris, Mom, I need you to stop, please." Margaret pressed her lips together but nodded. They started climbing. Each step sent a dull ache through Iris's healing ribs, a reminder of why they were here. Halfway up, she spotted him. Ethan stood near the entrance, hands in the pockets of dark slacks, white button-down rolled to the elbows. He looked out of place without his white coat, more vulnerable somehow. When he saw her, relief crossed his face. "You made it," he said, closing the distance between them. "Barely. I changed my outfit 4 times and threw up twice." "That's normal. I threw up before my medical boards." "You did not." "Okay, I didn't, but I thought about it really hard." He glanced at Margaret, extended his hand. "Dr. Ethan Cross. We met briefly at the hospital." "I remember." Margaret shook his hand, assessing him with that particular mother intensity. Whatever she saw must have passed muster because she softened slightly. "Thank you for coming. It means a lot." "Of course." A bailiff opened the doors, called out case numbers. Iris felt her stomach drop. "That's us," she whispered. Ethan's hand found the small of her back, steady pressure. "Remember what we talked about. You're the witness, not the defendant. You've got this." The courtroom was smaller than she'd expected, less dramatic. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, that particular smell of old paper and anxiety. Detective Morrison sat behind the prosecutor's table, gave her an encouraging nod, and there, at the defense table, was Marcus. He looked good. That was the worst part. Haircut, new suit, clean-shaven, like he'd spent the past 3 months at a spa instead of abandoning her to die. When their eyes met, he had the audacity to look wounded, like she'd betrayed him by being here. Iris's hands started shaking. "Breathe," Ethan murmured behind her. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. You're okay." She focused on his voice, that clinical calm, found her seat. Margaret sat on her left, Ethan on her right. The proceedings began. Opening statements, procedural motions, legal jargon that washed over her like white noise. Then the prosecutor, a sharp woman named Chen, called her to the stand. The walk felt like miles. Iris's heels clicked against the floor, each step echoing. She took the oath, sat, gripped the armrest to keep her hands from trembling. Chen started gentle. Name, age, occupation. How long had she known the defendant? The easy questions, establishing baseline. Then they moved into that night. "Ms. Bennett, can you describe the events leading up to the accident?" Iris took a breath. "Found Ethan in the gallery." He gave her a small nod. "We'd been fighting. Marcus, Mr. Reeves, had been drinking. Not a lot, but enough that I asked if I should drive. He got angry, said I was treating him like a child. We got in the car anyway. He was driving too fast, weaving. I kept asking him to slow down, and he kept telling me to shut up." "What happened next?" "The rain got heavier. The roads were slick. I said we should pull over, wait it out. He said I was being dramatic. We started fighting again, about the same things we'd been fighting about for months. Money, his job, my job, how I wasn't supportive enough, how I asked for too much." Her voice cracked. "I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that I wanted to break up." "How did Mr. Reeves respond?" "He accelerated, started driving crazy, swerving between lanes. I was screaming at him to stop. He said if I wanted out so badly, I could get out right there. And then we hit standing water and everything went sideways." The memory crashed over her, the screaming metal, the glass, the pain. She gripped the armrests harder. "What happened after the vehicle came to rest?" "I was disoriented. Everything hurt. I looked over and Marcus was already unbuckling his seatbelt. I tried to ask if he was okay, but he just opened his door and got out. I thought maybe he was going to call for help, check on me from the outside. But then I heard his footsteps walking away, fast, like he was running. I called his name and he didn't answer. He just left." "Did Mr. Reeves attempt to help you in any way?" "No." Did he call 911? I don't know. Someone called, but it wasn't from his phone. I checked later. He had no outgoing calls that night. Chen nodded, made notes. How long were you alone in the vehicle? I'm not sure. Maybe 10 minutes? It felt like forever. I was fading in and out. I thought I was going to die there. But you survived. The ambulance came. I had surgery. Dr. Cross saved my life. She looked at Ethan again. He was watching her with such fierce pride it made her throat tight. Chen asked a few more questions, then yielded to the defense. Marcus's lawyer stood. Older guy, expensive suit, the kind of face that had perfected sympathetic skepticism. Ms. Bennett, you and Mr. Reeves had been in a relationship for 5 years, correct? Yes. Would you characterize it as stable? For most of it, yes. But there were problems. Every relationship has problems. Fair enough. Ms. Bennett, isn't it true that you have a history of anxiety, that you've been treated for panic attacks? Iris felt her face flush. In college, yes, but I haven't had issues in years. Isn't it possible that your perception of that night was colored by panic? That perhaps Mr. Reeves did attempt to help you, but in your distressed state you don't remember it accurately? No, that's not what happened. But you were injured, disoriented. Isn't it possible you're misremembering? I'm not misremembering him walking away while I was trapped in the car. The lawyer smiled, thin and calculated. Ms. Bennett, isn't it true that you were the one who wanted to end the relationship? That you threatened Mr. Reeves with a breakup multiple times in the weeks leading up to the accident? I didn't threaten him. I told him I was unhappy and we needed to work on things, or end it. So you were the one pushing for the breakup. We both were unhappy. But you were the one who said you wanted out, that night, in the car. Your words were, I can't do this anymore. I want to break up. Correct? Yes, but isn't it possible, Ms. Bennett, that this entire testimony is an act of revenge? That you're bitter about the relationship ending and you're using this accident to punish Mr. Reeves? The accusation hung in the air. Iris felt panic creeping up her spine, that familiar tightness in her chest. She looked at Ethan. He mouthed something. Breathe. She took a breath, then another. No, she said clearly. I'm here because he left me to die. I'm here because what he did was wrong. If I wanted revenge, there are easier ways. I'm here because it's the truth. The lawyer tried a few more angles, but Iris held steady. When she was finally dismissed, her legs nearly buckled on the way back to her seat. Margaret grabbed her hand, squeezed hard. Ethan leaned close. You did great. That was perfect. The rest of the day blurred. More witnesses. The paramedics who'd found her, Detective Morrison with his reports, a traffic expert discussing conditions that night. Marcus didn't testify, which the prosecutor said was expected. By late afternoon, closing arguments finished and the judge sent the jury to deliberate. Could be hours, could be days, Chen told them in the hallway. Go home. Get some rest. I'll call when we have a verdict. Margaret wanted to stay, but Iris couldn't be in that building another second. They walked out into weak December sunlight, everything feeling surreal and distant. I need air, Iris said. I need a minute. I'll get the car, Margaret said, reading the subtext. Take your time. When she left, Iris leaned against the stone railing, breathing hard. The panic she'd kept at bay all day was crashing down now, making her vision tunnel. Hey, Ethan's voice close. Look at me. She did. Those gray-blue eyes anchored her. You're okay. It's over. You did it. I feel like I'm going to pass out. You're not. You're having an adrenaline crash, totally normal. Here. He guided her to sit on the steps, sat beside her. Head between your knees. That's it. They sat like that for several minutes, Ethan's hand warm on her back. Slowly, the panic receded. Iris straightened, wiping her eyes. Sorry, that was dramatic. That was human. Don't apologize. He studied her face. You were incredible in there. The way you stood up to that lawyer, I was so proud of you. The words hit differently than they should have. Iris felt heat that had nothing to do with embarrassment. I know. Wrong time, wrong place, but I had to say it. They looked at each other, and the air between them shifted. charged with something neither could name or act on. Not here. Not now. Margaret's car pulled up to the curb, breaking the moment. "I should go," Iris said, not moving. "Yeah. Will you text me? When you get home?" "Of course." She stood, and on impulse kissed his cheek. Quick, chaste. But his sharp intake of breath told her he felt it too. Whatever this was, building between them like pressure. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Then she was in the car, and Margaret was pulling away, and Ethan was still standing on those courthouse steps watching them go. "That man is in love with you," Margaret said matter-of-factly. "Mom, I'm just saying what I see. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Iris didn't have an answer. The verdict came 2 days later. Guilty on all counts. Marcus would serve 18 months, followed by probation. It wasn't enough. Nothing would be enough. But it was something, validation that she hadn't imagined it, hadn't deserved it, hadn't been crazy. Chen called with the news. "You should feel good about this. You made it possible." Iris felt numb more than anything. What happens now? Sentencing in 3 weeks. You can give a victim impact statement if you want. No pressure. After they hung up, Iris sat with the information. 18 months. In 18 months, Marcus would be out, free to rebuild his life, while she was still gluing together the pieces of hers. It felt inadequate and overwhelming at once. She called Ethan without thinking about it. "Hey," he answered, and she could hear Lily singing in the background. "Hold on 1 second. Some rustling, a door closing, then quiet. "Sorry, Lily's having a concert. How are you?" They convicted him. Guilty on everything. A pause. "How do you feel?" "I don't know. Relieved? Angry? It's only 18 months, Ethan. 18 months for almost killing me. I know, the system's not perfect, but it's something. It's acknowledgement that what he did was wrong, that there are consequences. I guess. Iris, this is a win. Maybe it doesn't feel like it right now, but it is. You stood up, you told your story, and they believed you. That matters." She could hear Lily calling for him in the background. "Daddy, come watch," and felt guilty for keeping him. "Go, be with your daughter. I can talk." "Ethan, go. I'm okay, I promise." After they hung up, Margaret appeared in the doorway. The verdict? Guilty. Good. She sat on the bed, pulled Iris into a hug. "I'm so proud of you, honey. I know this doesn't fix everything, but you did the right thing." Iris let herself be held, feeling about 12 years old. "I don't know what to do now. The trial's over. He's convicted. I thought I'd feel different, closure or whatever, but I just feel empty." "That's normal. You've been in survival mode for months. Now that the immediate crisis is over, you've got space to actually process everything. It's going to be hard, Iris. Harder than the trial, probably, but you'll get through it." "How do you know?" "Because you're my daughter, and you're stronger than you think." The weeks that followed were strange. Iris went through the motions: physical therapy, job interviews, therapy sessions with a counselor Margaret had insisted on. She was healing, objectively. Her ribs stopped aching. Her scars faded from red to pink to white. Her strength returned bit by bit, but emotionally she felt stuck, like she was waiting for something but didn't know what. She and Ethan texted daily, called every few days. Their conversations were easy, comfortable. He told her about hospital drama, Lily's latest adventures. She told him about her job search, the slow progress of rebuilding. They didn't talk about the thing humming between them, the pull that got stronger every time they spoke. 3 weeks after the verdict, Iris attended Marcus's sentencing. She'd written a victim impact statement, but wasn't sure until that morning whether she'd actually read it. Ethan offered to come again, but she told him no. This was something she needed to do alone. The courtroom was mostly empty this time. Marcus sat at the defense table looking smaller somehow, diminished. When the judge asked if she wanted to speak, Iris stood on shaking legs. "I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. I'm angry, obviously. I'm angry that you left me, that you put your pride above my life, that you never once apologized or took responsibility. But mostly I'm angry at myself for staying with you as long as I did, for ignoring all the signs that you weren't who I needed you to be, for making myself smaller so you could feel bigger." Her voice was steady now, stronger. "You took a lot from me that night, my sense of safety, my trust in my own judgment, my belief that people are fundamentally good. But you didn't take everything. I'm still here, I survived, and I'm building a life that doesn't include you or the version of myself that accepted your treatment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't forgive you. I probably never will. But I'm done letting what you did define me. This is the last time I'll think about you. The last time you'll matter. After today, you're just a mistake I learned from. She sat down. Marcus didn't look at her. The judge handed down the sentence: 18 months, credit for time served, 3 years probation. Then it was over. Walking out of that courtroom felt like shedding a skin. Iris stood on the steps, breathing cold December air, and felt lighter than she had in months. It was done. Really, truly done. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, how'd it go?" She typed back, "It's over. Finally over." "That's great. Are you okay?" "Getting there. Want to celebrate? I've got the afternoon off. Could meet you somewhere." Iris stared at the message, her heart doing complicated things. They'd been dancing around this for weeks, maybe months. The careful distance, the professional boundaries that had stopped feeling professional a long time ago. She could keep playing it safe, keep telling herself it was too soon, too complicated. Or she could choose differently. "Where?" she typed. An hour later, she pulled into the parking lot of a small park on the edge of town. It was cold, nearly empty, dead leaves scattered across frozen grass. She found Ethan sitting on a bench near an empty playground, 2 cups of coffee steaming beside him. "You brought coffee," she said, sitting down. "I brought terrible coffee. There's a difference." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their drinks. A few kids played in the distance, their mothers watching from nearby benches. "So it's really over," Ethan said finally. "Yeah, I gave my statement, the judge sentenced him, and I walked out. I keep waiting to feel something big, relief or vindication or whatever, but mostly I just feel tired." "That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for months. Now that there's nothing left to fight, your body's catching up." "Is that your professional opinion?" "It's my personal experience. When my divorce finally finalized, I thought I'd be happy, free. But mostly, I was just exhausted. It took months before I felt like myself again." Iris turned to look at him properly. "Do you ever regret it? Getting married in the first place?" "Sometimes. But then I look at Lily, and I can't regret anything that led to her." He set his coffee down, met her eyes. "The hard part is trusting myself again. Trusting that I won't make the same mistakes, choose the wrong person again." "Have you? Dated, I mean, since the divorce?" "Not really. A few coffee dates that went nowhere. Mostly I've been focused on Lily and work. It's easier, safer. No risk of screwing it up." "But lonely." "Yeah, lonely." The admission hung between them. Iris felt her pulse quicken. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "And you can tell me I'm completely off base." "Go ahead." "That day at the diner, when you held my hand, and at the courthouse, the way you look at me sometimes." She took a breath. "Is it just me? Am I imagining there's something here?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. "You're not imagining it." "But?" "But you just got out of a relationship that almost killed you. You're still healing, and I'm your doctor, or I was. There are ethics, boundaries, power dynamics, 100 reasons why this is a terrible idea." "And if none of that mattered?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Iris saw it clearly. The want, the restraint, the war he'd been waging with himself. "If none of that mattered," he said slowly, "I'd tell you that I think about you constantly, that I haven't felt this way about anyone since before my marriage fell apart, that you scare the hell out of me because I don't know if I'm capable of doing this right, of being what someone needs, but I'd like to try. If you wanted, if it wasn't too soon or too complicated or too much." Iris's breath caught. What if it is all those things? Then we'd figure it out, or we'd crash and burn, but at least we'd know. She should have been scared, should have been screaming about red flags and rebound relationships and all the logical reasons this was a disaster waiting to happen. But looking at Ethan, this man who'd shown up when no one else had, who'd held her together through the worst months of her life, who looked at her like she was worth the complication, she couldn't find the fear. "I want to try," she said quietly. "I'm probably going to be a mess, I'm going to have bad days and panic attacks and moments where I'm sure you deserve better, but I want to try. I'm going to be a mess too. I work terrible hours. I've got a 5-year-old who needs to be the priority. I'm going to cancel dates for emergencies and fall asleep on your couch and probably forget important things because my brain is always juggling 17 different things. Sounds awful. When do we start? Ethan laughed, and the sound broke something open in Iris's chest. Then he leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand came up to cup her jaw, thumb brushing her cheekbone, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, testing. Then Iris's hand fisted in his shirt and pulled him closer, and tentative became certain. He tasted like coffee and something indefinably him, and Iris felt it in her bones. This was different. This was choosing instead of settling, wanting instead of needing. This was the beginning of something that might actually be good. When they broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard. That was, yeah. We should probably talk about this, set boundaries, figure out how to do this right. We should, Iris agreed, not moving. Maybe not right this second. Maybe not. He kissed her again, and this time there was no hesitation, just heat and promise, and the careful building of something new. When they finally pulled apart for real, the sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold. Ethan's phone buzzed, probably Mrs. Chen wondering when he'd be home, reality reasserting itself. I need to pick up Lily, he said reluctantly, but I don't want to leave. Go, be with your daughter. We've got time. Tomorrow? Dinner? I'll have to bring Lily, which isn't exactly romantic. I'd love to meet her, properly, I mean. She's going to ask you a million questions. Fair warning. I can handle it. Ethan stood, pulled her up with him. This is real, right? I'm not imagining this? It's real. Iris kissed him once more, quick and sure. Go. Text me when you get home. She watched him walk to his car, watched him drive away, and felt something unfamiliar settling into her chest. Hope, maybe. The kind that didn't come with conditions or expiration dates. The kind that said, maybe, just maybe, good things could happen to her too. Her phone buzzed. Margaret. Dinner's at 6. Don't be late. Iris smiled and headed to her car. The past 3 months had been a series of endings. Her relationship, her sense of safety, her old life. But standing here in this cold parking lot, lips still tingling from Ethan's kiss, she felt something begin. Not an ending after all. A beginning. Iris changed outfits 3 times before the dinner. Jeans felt too casual, the dress too formal, everything else looked like she was trying too hard. Finally, Margaret intervened. You're meeting a 5-year-old, not the Queen of England. Wear the blue sweater and stop overthinking. What if she hates me? Then she hates you and you deal with it, but she won't. Kids have good instincts about people. Iris wasn't so sure about that, but she put on the blue sweater anyway. The restaurant Ethan had chosen was deliberately casual, a family place with crayons on the tables and a kids' menu shaped like a dinosaur. Low stakes, he'd said. No pressure. She arrived 10 minutes early and immediately regretted it. Sitting alone at a booth, watching other families, made her hyper-aware of what she was walking into. This wasn't just dinner with a guy she liked. This was dinner with a package deal, a ready-made family that she either fit into or didn't. There was no middle ground with kids involved. Iris! Lily's voice cut through her spiral. The little girl came barreling across the restaurant, Ethan trailing behind with an apologetic expression. Daddy said you're his friend. Are you really his friend, or are you his girlfriend? Because Tommy's mom says when daddies have lady friends over for dinner, that means girlfriend. Lily. Ethan's face went red. We talked about this. Inside voice, remember? This is my inside voice. Iris couldn't help but laugh. Lily was exactly as advertised. Dark curls escaping from pigtails, gap-toothed grin, wearing a princess dress over jeans and light-up sneakers. She radiated pure, unfiltered energy. Hi, Lily. I'm Iris, and your dad and I are friends who like each other a lot. Is that okay with you? Lily studied her with serious eyes. Do you like dinosaurs? I think they're pretty cool. What's your favorite? Probably the Triceratops. 3 horns, herbivore, very practical. Mine's the T-Rex because it's the scariest. Lily climbed into the booth, forcing Ethan to slide in next to Iris. But Daddy says the scariest one is actually the velociraptor because they hunt in packs and they're smart. Your dad knows a lot about dinosaurs? He knows about everything. He's a doctor. He fixes people when they're broken. Ethan cleared his throat. Lily, maybe let Iris breathe for a second. We haven't even ordered yet. I'm just being friendly. You said to be friendly. I did say that. You're doing great, kiddo. The waitress appeared, mercifully giving Iris a moment to collect herself. Lily ordered chicken fingers with extra fries, please. And can I have ranch and ketchup? Ethan got a burger. Iris ordered a pasta she had zero appetite for. When the waitress left, Lily launched back in. Daddy says you were in an accident. Did it hurt? Lily, Ethan started. It's okay, Iris said. Yeah, it hurt a lot. I had to have surgery and everything. Daddy does surgeries. Did he do yours? He did, actually. Did he fix you all the way? Iris glanced at Ethan, who looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. He did. I'm much better now. Good. Daddy's really good at fixing things. One time I broke my Elsa doll, and he used special glue, and she was like new. Lily paused, then leaned in conspiratorially. Are you going to marry my daddy? Ethan choked on his water. Okay, that's enough. Lily, we talked about appropriate dinner questions. But Tommy's mom said Tommy's mom talks too much. He looked at Iris, mortified. I'm so sorry. We had a whole conversation about boundaries in the car, and apparently none of it stuck. It's fine, Iris said, though her heart was hammering. She's curious. That's normal. See, Daddy? Iris says it's normal. The food arrived, saving them from further interrogation. Lily immediately became absorbed in her chicken fingers, ranking them by size and dipping precision. Ethan leaned close to Iris. I really am sorry. I told her to take it easy, but subtle isn't in her vocabulary. She's amazing, a little terrifying, but amazing. That's one word for it. He watched his daughter with obvious affection. She's been asking about you since I mentioned dinner. Wanted to know everything, what you look like, what you do, if you like princesses. What did you tell her? That you're smart and kind, and that I like spending time with you, and that she needed to give you space to decide if you liked spending time with us. The phrasing, us, not me, hit Iris squarely in the chest. This was what dating a single parent meant. You didn't just date the person, you dated the whole situation. The school pickups and bedtime routines, and a child who would ask 100 questions and need stability more than romance. Hey, Ethan's hand found hers under the table. You okay? You look like you're going somewhere in your head. Just processing. This is all very real suddenly. Too real. Because we can slow down. I don't want you to feel pressured. Iris looked at Lily, who was now building a French fry tower with intense concentration, tongue poking out the corner of her mouth. Then at Ethan, whose expression was carefully neutral but couldn't quite hide the worry. No, she said. Not too real. Just different from what I'm used to. But different might be exactly what I need. The tension in Ethan's shoulders eased. Yeah? Yeah. Lily's French fry tower collapsed. She looked up, devastated. It fell. Structural engineering is tricky, Iris said solemnly. Want me to help you build a better one? Lily's face lit up. Yes, you can be the architect and I'll be the builder. They spent the next 20 minutes constructing increasingly elaborate French fry structures, discussing load-bearing capacity and the importance of a solid foundation. Ethan watched with barely concealed amusement. You're good with her, he said quietly. She's easy to be good with. She's a handful. Don't let one successful dinner fool you. There are tantrums, bedtime negotiations, mornings where getting shoes on takes 45 minutes. It's chaos most days. I like chaos. Controlled chaos, anyway. There's nothing controlled about it. By the time they left the restaurant, Lily had extracted promises from Iris to come over and watch Frozen, help with a science project that involved baking soda and vinegar, and judge a talent show that would take place in the living room. Ethan tried to intervene, but Iris found herself agreeing to all of it. In the parking lot, Lily threw her arms around Iris's waist. You're nice. I hope you marry Daddy. Lily, Ethan grabbed his daughter's hand. Car, now. We're going to have another talk about appropriate comments. But I like her. I like her too, but we don't say things like that. Come on. After he'd buckled Lily into her car seat, Ethan came back to where Iris stood. I don't even know what to say. She's usually not this enthusiastic. Mortifying. Iris laughed. She's perfect, and she's right to be protective of you. That's a good thing. She's not protecting me. She's planning a wedding in her head. Can't blame her. You're a catch. Ethan's expression softened. Can I see you again? Soon? Maybe without the 5-year-old chaperone? I'd like that. But I also wouldn't mind seeing her again. She's kind of the best part of this deal. Don't let her hear you say that. Her ego's already out of control. Iris kissed him, quick and sweet, aware of Lily watching from the car. Text me when you get home. I will. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Ethan's schedule was insane. 12-hour shifts, emergency calls in the middle of the night, days where he was so exhausted he could barely string sentences together. But he made time. Coffee before his shifts, lunch breaks when he could steal them, late-night phone calls after Lily was asleep. And slowly, carefully, Iris got woven into the fabric of their lives. She came over for movie nights and stayed to help with bedtime. She picked Lily up from preschool when Ethan got stuck in surgery. She learned that Lily only ate sandwich crusts cut into tiny pieces, that bath time required exactly 3 rubber ducks, that bedtime stories must be read in character voices or they didn't count. It was exhausting and overwhelming and nothing like what she'd imagined a relationship could be. With Marcus, everything had been about them. Their schedules, their plans, their fights. With Ethan, there was always a third person to consider. Tiny needs that took precedence over romance, a child whose stability mattered more than any adult desire. It should have felt like a burden. Instead, it felt like purpose. Margaret noticed the change. You're different, she observed one Sunday morning. Lighter. I'm happy. Is that weird? Honey, it's wonderful. A little fast, maybe, but wonderful. You think it's too fast? I think you've earned the right to move at whatever speed feels right. Just be careful. There's a child involved now. If this doesn't work out, I know. I think about it constantly. What it would do to Lily if I became important to her and then disappeared. But I can't live my life afraid of every possible bad outcome. I did that with Marcus, and look where it got me. Fair point. Margaret squeezed her hand. Just promise me you're being honest with yourself. About what you want, what you're ready for. I promise. But the truth was, Iris wasn't entirely sure what she wanted beyond this. These small moments of domesticity, Ethan's steady presence, Lily's unfiltered joy. She'd spent so long defining herself through someone else's needs that having space to want things for herself felt foreign. She'd gotten a job, finally. Nothing glamorous, administrative work at a community center. But it paid the bills and came with health insurance. She'd started looking at apartments, small studios she could afford on her own. Margaret kept insisting there was no rush, but Iris needed to prove she could stand alone. That she wouldn't just trade dependence on Marcus for dependence on her mother, or worse, on Ethan. 3 months into their relationship, Ethan invited her over for dinner on a rare Friday night when he wasn't on call. Lily was having a sleepover at a friend's house, which meant they'd have the evening alone. The invitation felt significant, weighted with possibility. Iris arrived with wine and the kind of nervous energy usually reserved for first dates. Ethan opened the door in jeans and a t-shirt, barefoot, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Hey, come in. Fair warning, the place is a disaster. Lily has this thing where she starts projects and doesn't finish them, so there are half-built Lego cities in every room. The house was small but warm, lived in, with crayon drawings on the fridge and photos covering every surface. It smelled like garlic and something baking. You cooked, Iris said, surprised. Don't get excited. I have exactly 3 dishes in my repertoire. This is number 2, pasta with homemade sauce. If it's terrible, we can order pizza. I'm sure it's great. They ate at the kitchen table, talking easily about their days. Ethan told her about a surgery that morning, a kid who'd swallowed a marble and required emergency extraction. Iris told him about the chaos of trying to organize a community event with 0 budget and a committee that couldn't agree on anything. After dinner, they moved to the couch with more wine. Ethan put on music, something low and instrumental. The house felt different without Lily's energy filling every corner, quieter, more intimate. This is nice, Iris said, tucking her feet under her. Just us. Yeah, I love Lily more than anything, but sometimes I miss adult conversation that doesn't involve negotiating vegetable consumption. She told me last week that carrots are violence to her mouth. Ethan laughed. She got that from a cartoon. Now every food she doesn't like is violence to something. Broccoli is violence to her stomach. Peas are violence to her taste buds. She's very creative. She's a nightmare. A wonderful nightmare. He shifted closer. Can I ask you something? And you can tell me if it's too soon. Okay. Are you happy? With this? With us? Because I know it's not conventional. Most people get to date without a 5-year-old in the mix. Get to build something before adding kids to it. And I worry that you're settling for this because it's available, not because it's what you actually want. Iris set down her wine. You think I'm settling? I think you deserve someone who can put you first, who can take you on proper dates and be spontaneous and not cancel plans because of childcare issues. I come with so much baggage, Iris. A failed marriage, a kid, a job that eats my life. That's a lot to ask someone to take on. You're not asking. I'm choosing. There's a difference. But are you choosing because you want this or because you're afraid to be alone? The question stung because she'd asked herself the same thing at 3 a.m. when sleep wouldn't come. Maybe a little of both. I don't know. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Not the version of myself that Marcus wanted or the version my mom worries about. Just me. And Lily makes me want to be better. Not because I'm trying to impress anyone, but because she deserves adults in her life who have their act together. You think I have my act together? Ethan's laugh was bitter. Iris, I'm barely holding it together most days. I forget permission slips and feed Lily cereal for dinner when I'm too tired to cook. I'm not some perfect father figure. I don't want perfect. I've tried perfect. It's exhausting and fake and it doesn't work. She took his hand. I want real. I want someone who shows up even when it's hard, who tries even when they're tired. That's you, Ethan. That's who you are. He looked at her for a long moment, something working behind his eyes. I'm falling in love with you. I've been trying not to because it's too fast and probably stupid, but I am. And it terrifies me because I don't know how to do this right. I failed so spectacularly last time. Iris's heart was hammering. You didn't fail. Your marriage ended. That's not the same thing. Felt like failure. She left because I wasn't enough. Wasn't present enough. Wasn't attentive enough. I was so focused on my career that I missed all the signs until she was already gone. Do you want to know what I think? I think she left because she couldn't handle sharing you with your work and with Lily. And that's her limitation, not yours. The right person won't see your dedication as a flaw. They'll see it as who you are. Ethan pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. You're falling too, aren't you? I can feel it. Yeah, Iris whispered. I'm terrified too. We're a mess, the best kind of mess. He kissed her then, deep and slow, and Iris felt it everywhere. This wasn't the careful restraint of their first kiss, or the tentative exploration of the weeks that followed. This was certainty, commitment, a promise neither of them was quite ready to speak out loud. When they broke apart, Ethan's phone was buzzing. He checked it, groaned. It's the hospital. There's been a multi-car pileup on the interstate. They need all available surgeons. Go. It's okay. I'm sorry. This is exactly what I was talking about. Ethan, go. People need you. We'll have other nights. He kissed her again, quick and frustrated. I'll call you later. Make yourself at home. Stay if you want. There's a spare key in the kitchen drawer if you need to lock up. Then he was grabbing his keys and running out the door, leaving Iris alone in his living room. She should have been annoyed or disappointed. Instead, she felt something else. This was his life. The constant balance between personal and professional, the way emergencies didn't care about date nights. And she was okay with it. She cleaned up dinner, washed the dishes, straightened the Lego cities. Then she curled up on his couch with a blanket that smelled like him and waited. He called at 2 a.m. I just got out. Long night. You're probably asleep. I'm on your couch, waiting. A pause. You stayed. Where else would I be? Iris. His voice cracked slightly. Thank you for understanding, for not making this harder than it already is. Come home. We'll figure out the hard stuff tomorrow. He arrived 30 minutes later, exhausted and still in scrubs. Iris had coffee ready. He stood in his doorway and looked at her like she'd hung the moon. You made coffee. You look like you need it. I need you. He crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. I love you. I know it's too soon and probably irresponsible to say, but I do. And I need you to know that before I fall asleep standing up. Iris laughed against his chest. I love you too. Now sit down before you collapse. They stayed like that for a while. Ethan drinking coffee, Iris with her head on his shoulder, both of them too tired for anything but existing together. It wasn't romantic or dramatic. It was real. Around 4 a.m., Ethan's phone rang again. Mrs. Chen panicked. Lily had gotten sick at her friend's house. Nothing serious, probably just too much birthday cake, but she wanted her dad. I need to pick her up, Ethan said, already standing. I'll come with you. They drove through empty streets to a house in the suburbs. Lily was on the porch with her friend's mother, looking small and miserable in princess pajamas. When she saw Ethan, she burst into tears. Daddy, my tummy hurts and I want to go home. I've got you, baby. He scooped her up. We're going home right now. Lily noticed Iris then, still crying. Iris is here? She is. Is that okay? Will you come home too, please? Iris looked at Ethan, who nodded. Of course, sweetheart. Back at the house, they got Lily settled on the couch with crackers and ginger ale. She fell asleep with her head in Ethan's lap, one hand clutching Iris's fingers. The sun was coming up, painting everything in soft gold. This is my life, Ethan said quietly. Sick kids and sleepless nights and constantly juggling too many things. It's not glamorous. No, Iris agreed, but it's yours, and I want to be part of it. He looked at her over Lily's sleeping form. Even the hard parts? Especially the hard parts. Something settled between them then, an understanding that went deeper than words. This wasn't a fairy tale. There would be more interrupted dates and exhausted fights, and moments where the balance felt impossible, but they would figure it out together. A week later, Ethan's parents came to visit. His mother was a retired teacher with laugh lines, and his father was a former contractor who still wore flannel like a uniform. They descended on the house with groceries and questions, and the particular energy of grandparents who didn't get to see Lily enough. So you're Iris, his mother said, pulling her into a hug before she'd even introduced herself. We've heard so much about you, Lily can't stop talking. All good things, I hope. She says you're going to marry Ethan and give her a sister. Ethan appeared from the kitchen, looking mortified. Mom, we talked about this. No pressure. I'm not pressuring. I'm just repeating what Lily said. Dinner with his parents was chaotic and warm. They asked Iris about her job, her family, her recovery from the accident. They didn't pry, but they clearly wanted to understand who she was, what she meant to their son. When Lily demanded that Iris sit next to her, his mother caught Ethan's eye and smiled. After dinner, while Ethan helped Lily with her bath, his father cornered Iris in the kitchen. You seem like a good person, he said without preamble, and my son needs good people in his life, but I've got to ask, you know what you're signing up for here? Not entirely, but I'm learning. He's been hurt before. My boy doesn't show it, but the divorce nearly broke him. Raising Lily alone, trying to keep his career together. He doesn't have room for someone who's not all in. The words should have felt like a threat. Instead, they felt like protection. I understand, and I am all in. This is the most complicated thing I've ever done, but it's also the best thing. His father studied her, then nodded. Good. That's what I wanted to hear. Later, after his parents left and Lily was asleep, Ethan found Iris on the back porch. She'd needed air, space to process everything. My dad gave you the talk, didn't he? He was protective. I get it. I'm sorry, they mean well, but they can be intense. They love you, and Lily, that's not something to apologize for. She turned to face him. Your dad asked if I knew what I was signing up for. Do you? Do I what? Know what you're signing up for. With me. I come with baggage too, Ethan. Trauma, trust issues, a history of choosing the wrong people. What if I screw this up? What if I hurt Lily by becoming important to her and then not being able to handle this life? Ethan pulled her close. Then we'll figure it out. Together. I'm not expecting perfection, Iris. I'm expecting you to show up and try. That's all any of us can do. What if trying isn't enough? It will be. Because we're choosing this. Both of us, every day. That's what makes it different. Iris wanted to believe him. And standing there in his arms, listening to the quiet sounds of the neighborhood settling for the night, she almost did. Then his phone rang. Another emergency, another late night at the hospital. Another moment where she was reminded that this life came with conditions, with sacrifices, with 1,000 small ways of coming second. But this time, as Ethan kissed her goodbye and rushed off to save someone else, Iris didn't feel abandoned. She felt chosen. Because he'd asked her to stay even when he had to leave. Because he'd introduced her to his parents and his life and everything that mattered. Because when Lily woke up from a nightmare an hour later, she called for both of them. And when Iris went upstairs to comfort a crying 5-year-old who was asking for her daddy, holding the child and promising everything would be okay, she realized something. She wasn't settling. She wasn't filling a void or trying to fix herself through someone else. She was building something. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And for the first time in her life, that felt like enough. Spring came slowly that year, thawing the frozen ground in patches, turning everything muddy and uncertain before the green finally pushed through. Iris had been with Ethan for 6 months, and the relationship had settled into something that felt less like a whirlwind and more like steady ground. She had her own apartment now, small, affordable, hers, but spent most nights at his place anyway, helping with Lily's bedtime routine and falling asleep on his couch, waiting for him to get home from late shifts. It wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes about his schedule, about how much time she spent at his place versus her own, about whether Lily was getting too attached too quickly. But they worked through it, stumbling toward understanding instead of walking away when things got hard. It felt grown up in a way her relationship with Marcus never had. One Tuesday evening, Iris was making dinner while Lily colored at the kitchen table and chattered about her day. Ethan was in surgery, running late as usual. The domesticity of it all still surprised her sometimes. How naturally she'd slipped into this role, how much she looked forward to these ordinary moments. Iris, Lily looked up from her drawing. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you going to be my mom? Iris's hand froze on the knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. That's a big question, sweetheart. I know I have a mom already, but she's far away and she doesn't visit much. You're here all the time. So I was thinking maybe you could be like a bonus mom? The innocence of it broke something in Iris's chest. I would love to be whatever you need me to be, but that's something your dad and I would need to talk about. Do you love my dad? I do. And do you love me? Very much. Lily considered this, then went back to her drawing. Good, because I love you too, and I think you should stay forever. When Ethan finally got home at 9, Lily was already asleep and Iris was washing dishes with trembling hands. He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. Sorry I'm late. The surgery had complications. How was your day? Lily asked me if I was going to be her mom. Ethan went very still. What did you say? That I loved her. That it was something we'd need to figure out together. Iris turned to face him. She's getting attached, Ethan. Really attached. And so am I. But we haven't talked about what this is, where it's going. We've been avoiding it. I know. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been scared to bring it up. Scared you'd realize this is too much and bail. I'm not going to bail, but I need to know if this is going somewhere. If I'm building a life here, or just borrowing yours for a while. Ethan took her hands. I want you here, permanently. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every night. I want Lily to have stability, someone she can count on besides me. I want all of it, Iris. But I don't know how to ask for that without it sounding insane. We've only been together 6 months, so ask anyway. He stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Then he was pulling her toward the living room, sitting her down on the couch. He paced for a moment, clearly working up to something. I know this is fast. I know we probably need more time, more conversations, a dozen practical discussions about logistics and expectations. But I also know that I don't want to do this life without you. Not the surgery schedule or the bedtime battles or any of it. You make everything better just by being here. Ethan, let me finish, please. He stopped pacing, looked at her directly. Move in with us. For real. Not just staying over most nights, but actually living here. Your stuff, your space, your home, we'll figure out the details. How to split expenses, how to handle Lily's routine, all of it. But I need you here. We need you here. Iris felt tears burning behind her eyes. That's a big step. I know, and if you need time to think about it, yes. What? Yes, I'll move in. I don't need time to think about it because I've been thinking about it for weeks. I was just scared you weren't ready. Ethan crossed the room in 2 strides, pulled her up and kissed her hard. We're really doing this? We're really doing this. They told Lily the next morning over breakfast. Her reaction was to scream so loudly that Ethan dropped his coffee mug. You're staying? Forever and ever? Well, we're trying it out first, Iris said, laughing. But yeah, I'm moving in. This is the best day of my entire life. Lily launched herself at Iris, nearly knocking her off her chair. Can we paint your room? Can you sleep in Daddy's room? Can we get a puppy now? We're not getting a puppy, Ethan said firmly. But now there's 3 of us. That's enough people for a puppy. That's not how that works. Moving in was chaos. Iris didn't have much. A decade of living with Marcus had taught her to keep her possessions minimal, easily packed if things went south. But combining 2 households meant figuring out whose furniture stayed, whose dishes they'd use, how to make space in closets that were already full. Margaret helped, offering unsolicited advice and misty-eyed approval. I'm so happy for you, honey. This is what you deserve. It's terrifying. All the best things are. The first week was an adjustment. Iris kept reaching for things that weren't where she expected, kept apologizing for existing in spaces that were now supposedly hers. Ethan kept checking if she was okay, if she needed anything, if she was having second thoughts. They were both trying too hard, being too careful. Then Lily threw an epic tantrum about wearing shoes to school, and Iris snapped at Ethan for not backing her up, and he snapped back that she'd only been here a week and didn't get to make parenting decisions yet. It was their first real fight in their new arrangement, and it felt like the end of the world, until Lily appeared in the doorway, shoes on, looking between them with worried eyes. Are you getting divorced like Mommy and Daddy did? The question stopped them both cold. No, baby, Ethan said, crouching down. Iris and I aren't married, so we can't get divorced. We were just having a disagreement. Adults do that sometimes. But Mommy and Daddy had disagreements, and then she left. Iris felt her heart crack. She knelt beside Ethan. I'm not going anywhere, Lily. Your dad and I were being grumpy with each other, and that's not okay. But we're going to talk about it and figure it out. That's what people do when they love each other. Promise? I promise. After they dropped Lily at school, Ethan and Iris sat in his car and stared at the steering wheel. I'm sorry, he said finally. You were right about the shoes. I should have backed you up. I'm sorry too. I overstepped. I'm still figuring out where the boundaries are. Maybe we need to figure them out together. Set some ground rules about parenting stuff, household stuff, communication before we assume. That sounds very adult and reasonable. I have my moments. They went home and spent 2 hours hammering out agreements. Iris had equal say in household decisions, but would defer to Ethan on Lily's routine until they'd been living together longer. They'd have weekly check-ins about what was working and what wasn't. They'd go to bed angry if they had to, but they'd always come back to the conversation the next day. It wasn't romantic, it was work, but it was the kind of work that built something solid. 3 months into living together, Ethan's ex-wife called. She wanted to come visit Lily, spend a weekend, maybe discuss increasing her custody time. Ethan took the call in his bedroom with the door closed, but Iris could hear the tension in his muffled voice. When he emerged an hour later, he looked wrecked. She wants to take Lily for a month this summer. Says she's in a better place now, wants to be more involved. How do you feel about that? Honestly, panicked. She walked away 3 years ago. Now she wants back in? What if Lily gets attached and she disappears again? What if she decides she actually wants custody and I have to fight her in court? Iris pulled him down to sit beside her. What does Lily want? I don't know. I'm scared to ask. You have to ask. She's old enough to have an opinion. They asked Lily that night, carefully framing it as an option, not an obligation. Lily was quiet for a long time, picking at her dinner. Would Iris be there? She finally asked. No, sweetheart. It would just be you and your mom at her house in Seattle. I don't want to go without Iris. Ethan glanced at Iris, something complicated crossing his face. Baby, this is about spending time with your mom. Iris will be here when you get back. But what if I miss her? What if I get scared? You can call me any time, Iris said gently, day or night, and we can video chat every day if you want. Every day? Every single day. Lily thought about it. Okay, but only if Mommy promises not to leave again. It was naive, the kind of promise no adult could make. But Ethan said he'd talk to his ex, see what they could work out. The conversation left everyone unsettled, the stability they'd built suddenly feeling fragile. That night, after Lily was asleep, Iris found Ethan on the back porch, staring into the dark. Talk to me, she said, sitting beside him. I'm terrified of losing her, not just for the summer, losing her permanently. What if her mom really has changed? What if Lily wants to live with her? Then you'd work something out. Shared custody, whatever's best for Lily. But Ethan, you're her dad. The one who's been there for everything. That bond doesn't just disappear. My ex left because I was never around, always at the hospital, always choosing work. What if Lily grows up resenting that too? She won't. You know why? Because even when you're exhausted and stretched thin, you show up for her. You read bedtime stories and character voices and help build French fry towers and let her paint your toenails. You're not a perfect parent, but you're a present one. That's what matters. Ethan pulled her close. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You showed up in an ER and saved my life. Then you kept showing up. That's all any of us can do. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other against uncertainty. Eventually, they went to bed and held each other there too, finding comfort in the solid reality of another person beside you. The crisis Iris had been half expecting, half dreading, came on a random Thursday in June. She got a call from Lily's preschool. There'd been an incident on the playground. Lily had fallen. They couldn't reach Ethan. Iris was listed as an emergency contact now. Could she come? She made it to the school in 8 minutes. Lily was in the nurse's office with an ice pack on her wrist, crying but trying to be brave. The director explained it was probably just a bad sprain, but they recommended getting it checked out to be safe. Where's my daddy? Lily sobbed. He's in surgery, baby. But I'm here. I've got you. At the hospital, Iris held Lily through x-rays and doctor examinations. Nothing broken, just a sprain, but Lily was inconsolable, crying for her dad, asking when he'd be done, saying her wrist hurt so much. I know it hurts, Iris said, holding her carefully, but they gave you medicine and it's going to feel better soon. And Daddy will be here as soon as he can. You're not my mom, Lily said, and even though her voice was small and scared rather than mean, the words cut. You're right, I'm not, but I love you like you're mine, and I'm not going anywhere. Ethan burst into the waiting room 20 minutes later, still in scrubs, looking like he'd run the whole way. Lily! Daddy! She launched herself at him, started crying all over again. He scooped her up, met Iris's eyes over her head. What happened? Playground fall, sprained wrist. She's okay, just scared. Why didn't anyone call me? They did. You were in surgery. I'm your emergency contact, remember? Something in his expression cracked. Relief and gratitude and something that looked like love intensified. Thank you for being here, for taking care of her. That's what I'm here for. They took Lily home, got her settled on the couch with her favorite movie and a popsicle. She fell asleep 20 minutes in, exhausted from crying. Ethan sat beside Iris, staring at his sleeping daughter. I could have lost her today. It was just a fall, just a sprain, but it could have been worse, and I wasn't there. You can't be everywhere. That's why I'm here. That's why we're a team. She said you're not her mom. I'm not. I'm okay with that. But she hurt you. I could see it. Iris leaned her head on his shoulder. Of course it hurt. But she's right. I'm not her mom. I'm something else. Something we don't have a good word for yet. The person who shows up when her dad can't. The person who loves her because I choose to, not because I have to. Maybe that's enough. It's more than enough. Ethan turned to face her fully. Iris, I need to ask you something, and I need you to know I'm serious. Her heart started hammering. Okay? Marry me. Not someday or eventually. Soon. As soon as we can make it happen. Because days like today remind me that life doesn't wait for perfect timing. And I don't want to waste another second not being officially, legally, permanently yours. Iris stared at him. That's not a proposal. That's an ambush. You're right. Hold on. He got down on one knee right there in his living room, with his sleeping daughter curled up on the couch and dishes in the sink, and the beautiful mess of their life spread out around them. Iris Bennett, will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Lily's bonus mom and the person I build this crazy life with? I don't have a ring yet because I just decided this 5 seconds ago, but I'll get you one. Or we can pick it out together, whatever you want. Just please say yes. Iris was crying and laughing at the same time. This is the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a no? It's a yes, you idiot. Of course it's a yes. He stood up and kissed her, hard and desperate and full of promise. Lily stirred on the couch, opened her eyes. Why is Daddy kissing Iris? Because Iris just agreed to marry me. Lily processed this, then her eyes went huge. Does that mean she's staying forever for real? Forever for real. And I get to be in the wedding? Obviously. Can I wear a princess dress? Whatever you want, baby. Lily pumped her good fist in the air. Best day ever, even with my broken arm. It's sprained, Ethan corrected, but he was grinning. They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the same park where they'd had their first real conversation, where Ethan had admitted he was falling in love. It was just family and a few close friends, nothing elaborate. Lily wore a pink princess dress and carried a basket of flowers, taking her job extremely seriously. Margaret cried through the entire ceremony. Ethan's parents beamed. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lily raised her hand. Everyone froze. I just want to say that Iris is the best, and I'm really happy she's going to be my family now. That's all. The crowd laughed. Ethan kissed his daughter's head. Then he kissed his wife, and Iris felt something settle deep in her bones. This was home. Not a place, but these people. This love that was messy and complicated and showed up even when things were hard. The reception was in Ethan's backyard, now their backyard, with string lights and a playlist Lily had helped create and cake that was probably too sweet, but nobody cared. When they cut it, Lily insisted on getting the first piece, because I'm the reason you met. So basically, I made this wedding happen. That's not how that works, Ethan said. It totally is. If I didn't exist, you wouldn't have been at the hospital that night. She has a point, Iris said. Don't encourage her. As the sun set and the party wound down, Iris found herself standing at the edge of the yard, watching Ethan dance with Lily to a Disney song, both of them laughing. Margaret came to stand beside her. Happy? Terrifyingly happy, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. The other shoe already dropped, honey. You survived it. This is what comes after, the good stuff you earned. What if I screw it up? Then you'll figure it out. That's what marriage is. Screwing up and figuring it out over and over until you're both too old to remember what you were fighting about. Ethan waved at Iris to join them. She crossed the yard, let herself be pulled into their orbit, and danced with her new family as the stars came out overhead. 6 months after the wedding, Ethan came home from work with a strange expression on his face. Iris was making dinner while Lily did homework at the table, 2nd grade now, learning to read chapter books and complaining about math constantly. Can we talk? He asked. After dinner? That sounds ominous. It's not. I promise. Just after dinner. Through the meal, Iris tried to read his mood. He wasn't upset exactly. More nervous, which was unusual for someone who performed surgery with steady hands and calm confidence. After they'd gotten Lily to bed, Ethan pulled Iris into their bedroom, closed the door. Remember how you told me once that you'd always dreamed of designing spaces? That before Marcus, you'd wanted to be an interior designer? Iris blinked. That was one conversation months ago. I barely remember it. Well, I remember, and I've been thinking about it. He pulled out his laptop, showed her a listing. This property came up for sale. It's a fixer-upper, needs a lot of work. But the bones are good, and it's got this incredible natural light. I thought, maybe we could buy it, renovate it. You could design the whole thing, make it exactly what you want. And when we're done, it could be ours, our family home. Iris stared at the screen. The house was beautiful in that derelict way. Good structure, terrible everything else. It would take months of work, serious money, a complete overhaul. Ethan, this is insane. We can't afford this. We can. I've been saving. And my parents offered to help with the down payment as a wedding gift. I know it's a lot, but I want to do this for you, for us. Build something that's ours from the ground up. You're serious. Completely serious. Will you at least come look at it with me? They toured the house the following weekend, Lily running through empty rooms and declaring each one perfect for a princess. The place was a disaster. Peeling wallpaper, outdated fixtures, a kitchen that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1975. But Iris could see it. The potential. What it could become. I could knock out this wall, she said, standing in what would be the living room. Open up the space, add built-in shelving here, French doors leading to the backyard. Whatever you want, this is your project. It's our project. I'm not doing this alone. Ethan pulled her close. So is that a yes? We're buying a disaster? We're buying a disaster. The renovation took 8 months. Iris threw herself into it with an intensity that surprised everyone, including herself. She'd never had the space to want things before, to envision something and make it real. Now she sketched designs until 2 a.m., researched tile patterns, argued with contractors about load-bearing walls. Ethan watched with barely concealed amazement. You're incredible at this. You know that? I'm bossy and obsessive. You're talented. This is what you should be doing, not administrative work at the community center. It's just a hobby. It's more than that. Iris, look at what you're creating here. You have an eye for this. She didn't let herself believe it until the house started taking shape. The walls she'd chosen, the fixtures she'd selected, the flow she'd designed. It worked. It was beautiful. It was hers. They moved in just before Lily's 7th birthday, the house still needing finishing touches but livable. Lily got the bedroom she'd designed herself, purple walls with glow-in-the-dark stars, just like Iris had once had. Ethan's home office overlooked the backyard, and Iris's design space, a small room she'd claimed for her growing portfolio, had windows on 2 sides and perfect afternoon light. On their first night in the new house, they ordered pizza and sat on the floor because the furniture wasn't all assembled yet. Lily was already asleep in her new room, exhausted from exploring every corner. We did it, Ethan said, looking around. We really did. I'm proud of you, for all of this, for taking a risk on something you wanted. Iris leaned against him. I'm proud of us, for building this, for not giving up when things got hard. Speaking of which, he shifted to face her. I have something to tell you, and I need you to not freak out. Her stomach dropped. That's exactly what you say before someone freaks out. I've been offered a position, chief of surgery at St. Catherine's. It's a huge promotion, better pay, more stability, but it also means more responsibility, more meetings, more politics. That's amazing, Ethan. Why would I freak out about that? Because it also means less time for emergency surgeries, fewer unpredictable hours. I'd have actual nights off, could make it to Lily's school events. Be here more. Iris felt tears burning. You're giving up surgery? Not entirely. I'd still operate just less frequently, but I realized something. I've been using work as an excuse, hiding behind the emergency room because it was easier than being present for my life. But I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be here. With you, with Lily. I want to show up. What if you resent it? What if you miss the adrenaline? I might, but I'll resent missing Lily's childhood more, and I'll resent not being the husband you deserve. He took her hands. You saved my life too, you know, not with surgery, but by showing me there's more to life than work, that I'm allowed to want things, to build things, to be happy. When do you start? Next month, if I take it. I wanted to talk to you first. Take it, build the life you want. We'll figure out the rest. He kissed her, and Iris tasted salt. Didn't know if it was from her tears or his. Didn't matter. They were in this together. 3 months into Ethan's new position, Iris got a call that made her hands shake. A local design firm had seen photos of her renovation. Margaret had posted them on social media without permission and wanted to know if she'd be interested in taking on a client project. Just one, to start. See how it went. I can't, Iris said immediately. I don't have any formal training. I'm not qualified. The woman on the phone laughed. Your work speaks for itself. We're not looking for credentials. We're looking for vision. Think about it. Iris thought about it for 3 days, then said yes. The project was small, a condo renovation for a young couple. But she poured everything into it, and when they saw the results, they cried. Then they referred her to their friends, who referred her to their family. Within 6 months, Iris had enough clients to leave her administrative job and design full-time. "I can't believe this is happening," she told Ethan one night. "A year ago, I was sleeping in my childhood bedroom and couldn't imagine a future. Now I'm running my own business." "You built this. You earned it. We built it. I couldn't have done any of this without you." That goes both ways. It did. That was the thing about their relationship. It wasn't one person saving the other. It was two people who'd been broken learning to be whole together. Two people choosing each other every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. A year after they moved into the house, Iris found out she was pregnant. She'd been feeling off for weeks, tired, nauseous, weirdly emotional over commercials. When the test came back positive, she sat on the bathroom floor for 20 minutes, just staring at it. She and Ethan had talked about kids in abstract terms. Maybe someday, if it happened. But they'd been so focused on Lily and work and building their life that it never felt urgent. Now it was real. Terrifyingly real. She told Ethan that night after Lily was asleep. He stared at the test, then at her, then at the test again. "We're having a baby?" "Apparently. Are you okay? You look like you might pass out." "I'm more than okay. His voice cracked. "I'm so happy I don't have words for it." "Really? Because you look terrified." "I'm that too. Lily was a baby when her mom left. I basically learned how to parent on the fly, making it up as I went. What if I screw it up this time too?" Iris took his face in her hands. "You didn't screw it up. Lily is incredible, and that's because of you. And this time you won't be doing it alone. We're a team, remember? We're really doing this, starting over with a newborn. We're really doing this." They told Lily the next morning. Her reaction was to scream so loudly the neighbors probably called the police. "I'm going to be a big sister. This is even better than when Iris moved in. Can I name the baby? Can it be a girl? I want a sister. Can we get that puppy now?" "Still no puppy," Ethan said. "But there's going to be 4 of us. That's definitely enough for a puppy." The pregnancy was rough. Iris was sick for 4 months straight, exhausted beyond reason, her body transforming in ways that felt alien and miraculous at once. Ethan was attentive to the point of being annoying, constantly asking if she was okay, if she needed anything, hovering like she might break. "I'm pregnant, not dying," she told him after he'd tried to carry groceries she was perfectly capable of handling. "I know. I just want to help." "You can help by treating me like a normal person." "You're growing a human. That's not normal. That's incredible." Lily was fascinated by the whole process, constantly talking to Iris's growing belly and asking questions that got progressively harder to answer. When they found out it was a boy, she was disappointed for approximately 5 minutes before deciding that brothers were actually better because girls can be mean but boys just want to play with trucks. "That's a generalization," Iris said. "Tommy told me, and Tommy knows everything about brothers because he has 3. The baby came in March, 2 weeks early, and after 18 hours of labor, that left Iris swearing she'd never do this again. Ethan was there the whole time, steady and calm, even when Iris was screaming that she hated him, and this was all his fault. When they finally placed the baby in her arms, small and perfect and making angry little sounds, she understood what people meant when they said, "Your heart could exist outside your body." "We have a son," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Iris, we have a son. What should we name him?" They'd gone back and forth for months, unable to agree on anything. But looking at him now, pink and squalling, Iris knew. "James, after your father." Ethan's eyes filled. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Lily met her brother that afternoon, dressed in her fanciest dress for the occasion. She climbed into the hospital bed carefully, staring at James with wide eyes. "He's so small. Was I that small?" "Even smaller," Ethan said. "Can I hold him?" They arranged it carefully, Lily cradling James with Iris guiding her arms. The look on her face, pure wonder and fierce protectiveness, made Iris understand what family really meant. Not blood or legal documents, but this, choosing to show up for each other, choosing to love. "Hi, James," Lily whispered. "I'm your big sister, and I'm going to teach you everything. how to read and ride a bike, and which vegetables you can hide in your napkin. Don't worry, I've got you. Iris met Ethan's eyes over their children's heads. 7 years ago, she'd been broken on a rain-soaked road, convinced she'd die alone and forgotten. Now she was here, surrounded by family, holding new life, building something that felt impossible and inevitable at once. "Thank you," she whispered to Ethan. "For what?" "For showing up, for staying, for building this life with me. Thank you for letting me, for taking a chance on a disaster of a single dad with too many complications. Best disaster I ever walked into." They brought James home to the house Iris had designed, the family they'd built together. Those first few months were chaos, sleepless nights, constant feedings, Lily feeling jealous, and then guilty about feeling jealous. Ethan was better with the baby stuff than Iris expected, moving through diaper changes and midnight bottles with practiced efficiency. Iris fumbled more, unsure and terrified she'd break this tiny human they'd made. "You're doing great," Ethan told her one night when she was crying from exhaustion and frustration because James wouldn't stop screaming. "I'm doing terrible. I don't know what I'm doing. None of us do. We're all making it up. But you show up and you try and you love him. That's all any kid needs." Slowly, impossibly, they found their rhythm. James started sleeping longer stretches. Lily adjusted to not being the center of attention. Iris's design business adapted to working from home, taking client calls during nap times, and sketching concepts while nursing. It wasn't perfect. Some days were still hard. Ethan still worked long hours sometimes. Iris still had moments where the trauma of that night on the rain-soaked road came rushing back, panic attacks that left her shaking. But they worked through it, together. On James's first birthday, they had a party in their backyard, the one Iris had designed with a garden and space for kids to run wild. Friends and family crowded around, watching James smash his fist into blue frosting while Lily documented everything on a tablet, declaring herself the official family photographer. Margaret pulled Iris aside while Ethan was cutting cake. "Look at what you built, honey. Look at this life." Iris looked at the house she'd designed, at the husband who'd chosen her, at the daughter who called her bonus mom, at the son who had her eyes and Ethan's stubborn chin, at the beautiful, messy, imperfect life she'd fought so hard to create. "I can't believe this is mine," she said. "You earned every bit of it." That night, after everyone had gone home and the kids were asleep, Iris and Ethan sat on their back porch with wine and leftover cake. The same spot where they'd had so many important conversations, where they'd planned and worried and dreamed. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan said. "Always. The night I met you in that ER, I almost didn't go to work. I was exhausted. Lily had been up sick the night before, and I considered calling in. But I went anyway because that's what I do. And I found you." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I used to think my life was full before you, but it wasn't. It was busy, sure, packed with responsibilities and obligations. But it wasn't full. Not really. You filled in all the spaces I didn't know were empty. You made everything better." Iris felt tears threatening again, happy ones this time. "You did the same for me. You showed me what it means to be chosen, not needed or tolerated, but actually wanted. That's a gift I'll never take for granted." "So what do we do now? We've got the house, the kids, the careers. We've checked all the boxes. Now we live, we show up for each other, we build more things, we mess up and figure it out, we do all the ordinary, extraordinary things that make a life." That sounds perfect. It sounds terrifying. Even better. They sat there as the stars came out, holding hands and listening to the quiet sounds of their sleeping house. Somewhere inside, Lily was probably sneaking out of bed to read with a flashlight. James was hopefully still asleep in his crib. Their home, built from nothing, designed with love, held everything that mattered. Iris thought about the woman she'd been on that rain-soaked road, convinced she was dying alone. She wished she could reach back through time and tell that woman what was coming, that the worst night of her life would crack her open, but it would also set her free, that she'd survive, and more than that, she'd thrive, that she'd meet a man with gray-blue eyes and steady hands who would show her what partnership really meant, that she'd become a mother to a whirlwind of a girl who needed stability more than she needed perfection. That she'd design spaces that brought people joy. That she'd create life and nurture it and watch it grow. That she'd build a home not just in wood and walls, but in people. In showing up. In choosing to stay. But maybe that woman couldn't have heard it. Maybe she needed to walk through the fire first, needed to be broken down to her studs before she could be rebuilt into something stronger. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked. "Just that I'm glad you showed up. That night in the ER, every day since. All of it." "Me too. Best medical emergency I ever treated." "That's a terrible thing to say. But it's true." Iris laughed, and the sound carried across their backyard, into the house they'd built, the life they'd created. She'd survived the crash. More than that, she'd learned to live. And that made all the difference.